back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto became the Shadow Dragon Monarch loved by Anko, Tsunade, Konan, Kaguya and Kushina. Part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. Land of Whirlpools, Uzushiogakure. Naruto Uzumaki slowly opens his steel blue eyes as the mid-morning rays decide to annoy him, courtesy of one of his maids. A weight is laying on his chest and it is in the form of someone who could have been his enemy in his previous life. Naruto slowly slips out from under his bed mate to sit up and stretch his chiseled body with a few scars from his younger day. Kaguya Otsutsuki, the progenitor of chakra. Maybe I should have let Black Zetsu attempt his little game. A chance to fight a supposed goddess. So wasted, Naruto thought. He is currently the daimyo of Uzushio in his third life and he remembers the day Kami came to him. It was after the passing of his princess Hinata at the age of 85, with his panda Tenten passing away at 74. His fourth wife and flower Ino passed on at 70 with his hubby Haim Anko secluding herself from the world after faking her death at 69. Naruto himself hid under a special henge to watch his children grow and have children of their own. His pupil becoming Nanadime and his oldest daughter become Kyudime after his second-in-command's daughter became Hachidime. Kami asked the pair if they lived full lives and would they do it again, save another world from a calamity. He and Anko agreed as both indeed lived full lives and were ready for their next journey together. Kami has the pair reborn into a fantastical world, where most of the population possessed powers other than chakra and were known as hunters. Hunters are able to use a power called magic, which is similar to chakra but more spiritual. The gods gave humans magic to combat magical beasts and gates but also what was lurking in the shadows. Interdimensional entities known as rulers and monarchs were using the world as their battlefield and the gods could not let this continue. However, one of the monarchs would side with the gods to stop this war. The contemporaries were still here as our world but instead of Kaguya it was her clan who spread chakra to the world. Hiding in their tower known as the Heaven Tower among other fantastical people and places. Kaguya still gave birth to Hagoromo and Hamura but she was killed by her clan with the Jubi. Kami decided to give Kaguya another chance at life and a better one with those who would actually love her. Eventually being reborn into a clan of elves inside the Heaven Tower but her father was from the Kaguya clan. Her mother Althea Aaliyah named her after the clan due to a dream sent by Kami thus her name being Kaguya Aaliyah. Kaguya would meet Naruto inside the tower when he was young on the 7th floor and would serve as a guardian due to his blessings. Eventually becoming his lover and gaining a love of sweets and cute things like bunnies but also Naruto and his soon-to-be lovers. Other events happened as Hashirama Senju fought Madara Uchiha but this time both men had hunter abilities. Madara even used a Biju-sized dragon named Ashen One or Brayag instead of Kurama the Kyuubi no Yoko but ultimately failed once again. However he escapes and went into hiding and father's son, who would have a son named Minato Namikaze. However instead of being the man of virtue like in Naruto's previous world. He was a man of greed like many who lived in the village of Konohagakure no Sato. Greed and a lust for power spread after death Hashirama as many within his own clan, his students and his village fought for the remains. This would force his brother Tobirama to flee with what remains of his clan that wasn't filled with greed. Eventually these Senju fled to the island nation of Uzushio, mingling with the Uzumaki and races who lived there. This would lead to the birth of the legendary healer Tsunade Senju, great-granddaughter of Hashirama. Naruto's own birth was legendary as well but also filled with treachery as Konoha sent his father to woo the head of Uzumaki and secretly a dragon Kushina Uzumaki are commonly known as the Summer Queen. His mother knew the traitorous thoughts of his father but decided to allow him to try and woo her, failing miserably but his mother sensed the inherent power within him and took him to her bed. Once she was sufficiently sure she pregnant she had his father killed with a way that wouldn't be traced back to her in Uzushio by having him die within the Demon Tower. This tower being the dark counterpart of the Heaven Tower and filled with demonic creatures of many shapes and sizes. Konoha and Fire Country were incensed at his father's death as he was the Yondaime Hokage but without evidence of any wrongdoing all they could do was glare and bear it. The alliance between the two great countries becoming frosty at best but it did not stop them from cursing the Summer Queen for this. 9 months later Naruto was born with no trace of his father's blonde hair but black and red hair. Unlike his previous life Kurama was never sealed into his mother or him, instead living on Uzushio and lazing about to have several children. Kami made sure Naruto was born with both his powers, as well as the powers of the Shadow Monarch and ruler of Death Ashborn. This power would make him the ruler of Uzushio and one of the most powerful ninja/hunter. Naruto stares into his full-length mirror at his form, droplets of water and steam still dripping from his muscular frame. He is a towering 6'4" once again with a runner's set of legs, his skin fair like his mother and his hair a bushy red hair with the sides shaven but black in color. Several runic tattoos adorn his body along with faux dragon scales down his left arm, with an assortment of tattoos representing his clan. The most distinct was the full back tattoo of a pair of angel wings embracing numerous flowers of different species to represent his fallen wives, children and grandchildren. Well, you won't have to get used to the height like before. Zetsue, or the 6-headed dragon of Chaos Muses, standing behind him with a towel. She has long crimson hair with streaks of white, her eyes being one sapphire eye and one ruby eye with black sclera. She wears casual clothes of a black skirt and white blouse with a black cravat. Naruto takes the towel and starts to wipe himself off. True, but I wonder what the others are like in Konoha, he says. Well, you get to find out as you get to head there. They have an unranked gate in need of closing, Zetsue says, dispelling. The former blonde sighs with a roll of his neck, grabbing his red boxer briefs and slipping them on. He heads to find his clothes for the day left by his maid but finds Kaguya starting to wake up. Why didn't you wake me? Kaguya says, rubbing her right eye cutely. She has pale skin with butt-length white hair, pale green eyes and 2 red circles on her forehead, wearing a light pink nightgown with bunnies on it. Naruto softly smiles and sits on the edge of the bed to give her a soft kiss to her temple. You looked so cute sleeping. We didn't want to wake you, he says, and Kaguya sighs, puffing her cheeks. All right, however, do you wish me to accompany you and Anko to Konoha? Kaguya asks, but Naruto shakes his head. We'll be fine. Continue focusing on your training, Naruto says, and Kaguya nods, getting out of bed and heading to take her own shower. He finds his clothes and slips on a pair of loose-fit blue boot-cut jeans with a skull-head belt and white socks. A long-sleeve, form-fitting red shirt with bionic arm graphics over a form-fitting muscle shirt. A pair of silver-tip and heel cowboy boots, 6 special black bracelets of 3 on each arm, a long medallion with his clan symbol in silver, and lastly a silver skull ring signifying his marriage to his partner in crime, Anko Uzumaki. Speaking of which, where is Anko? Naruto thought. Perhaps training in the garden. She is close to attaining her Bankai, Zetsue comments. Naruto tilts his head with a sigh and grabs a black diamond head cane, which was Zetsue in disguise. Naruto makes his way out of his expansive bedroom and finds his way to the garden, many servants greeting him as he passes. Konan and Tsunade are probably jealous that they can't publicly marry you like Anko, Zetsue says. Technically there isn't a CRA for me, but as a daimyo, I can have mistresses along with a wife. Besides, Tsunade is able to legally keep her clan name. Same with Kaguya, Naruto thought. True, and Kushina-sama wants you to have 5 mistresses. So you better get to finding 2 more, Zetsue says, and the Monarch sighs. Naruto continues on, but a small noise catches his attention and he turns to catch a small white fox with 3 tails. Fu, she croons, rubbing her head under his chin. You found me, Fu. Come on, let's find and Chan, Naruto says, and Fu climbs on his shoulder. The pair reach the garden as a small weight hits his shoulders, and the source being Anko meditating in the garden. Her Ryutsu waving off her still form with Wisteria Mamba or Whis driven into the ground. Anko in this new world is a member of the One-Horn tribe, powerful beings and skilled martial artists. All having either one goat-like horn on the left or right sides of their heads and sharp eyes. Anko herself having a black horn on her left temple with long light violet hair to her waist and haunting brown gold eyes. Naru-kun. Finally awake, huh? Anko says, opening her eyes. She wears dark blue custom obi-style dress with a white, silk short skirt and garter straps to white fishnet stockings with dark blue and black boots that button up the side with a small heel. You're just early, Naruto says, giving her a long and hungry kiss. A presence makes herself known in the form of the mother of Naruto and Yondaime Uzukage of Uzushiokage. Kushina has long crimson hair to her knees and a roundish face with dragon-like purple eyes and fair skin. She wears a black but revealing kunoichi shozoku with her hips and back bare along with a crimson haori on her shoulders. KHM, if you're done sucking face, we have things to discuss, Kushina says, smirking softly. Anko scoffs with a giggle as Naruto blushes slightly. We know, mama. Don't trust anyone in Konoha, she says. Fu leaps into Kushina's arms with a look on her face. True, but don't show off too much. Your father was from Konoha and they will do everything to entice you into joining hands with them. So be careful showing off your Sharingan or your other abilities. That goes for both you, Kushina says. Of course, but not like they have someone on my level. I make their S-class hunters look like jokes. Besides, I can perhaps add to my army with this gate, Naruto muses, hugging his mother. Makes you wonder why they would contact Uzushio. If they have S-class hunters and some touted A-class, Anko says, hugging Kushina. The reason doesn't matter. We can scout Konoha and garner their intentions for the future, Naruto says. That's right. However, be careful, sweetie, and you too, and Chan. Once you two finish with this gate, head to Tsunade and discuss the terms of our alliance. Then link up with Nagato in aim, Kushina says, and both nod. Kushina leaves the pair and takes Fu with her to deal with her dreaded enemy or instead play with the fox. Should we use Shunpo or one of your mounts, Anko says. Naruto twirls his cane in thought but sees Kaguya approaching, coming to see us off. I didn't think you would make it, he says. Hey ya-chan, Anko crows. Kaguya is wearing form-fitting black pants with the right leg cut a few inches below of her hip, a black stocking covering the bare leg with lavender fur around the top along with ankle boots, also having lavender fur. A form-fitting but sleeveless white blouse with a low-cut black corset vest and arm-length black gloves with lavender fur wristbands. Hello, and Chan, and yes, I wanted to see you off, Kaguya says. Anko gives Kaguya a quick peck on the lips. You should come with. It'll be fun. Anko says. I need to finish working on my dances. Also I can train with Kushina-sama or Tsunade, Kaguya says. We'll treat you to your favorites when we get back, Naruto says, hugging her, and Anko does the same before the pair vanish. Have a safe trip, Kaguya says, before vanishing in a swirl of wind. Konohagakure no Sato, Land of Fire. One day later. Konohagakure no Sato stands as a testament to the power of Hai no Kuni, whether for their technology or the power of their ninja hunters. The Land of Fire boasts several S-class hunters and ninja, with one even reaching the SS class, but those times were in past as their ninja and hunters were in decline. Inside the tallest tower of Konoha is Hiruzen Sarutobi Sandaime Hokage, forced to retake the mantle after the death of Minato Namikaze, the Yondaime Hokage and vaunted SS-class hunter. The only silver lining is we get to meet Minato-kun's son and perhaps bring him to his true home, Hiruzen thought. He has gray hair and liver spots with a grandfatherly face, wearing a red kimono, white obi and matching haori. The door opens and it reveals Hiruzen's advisors Homura Mitokado, Kaharu Udatane and Danzo Shimura. Any word on his arrival, Kaharu states. She is older woman with gray hair in a bun and hair needles, wearing a kimono with a haori coat. He should be arriving around mid-morning with one other. Apparently with his wife, Hiruzen says. A wife, Homura says. He is a stern-looking man with gray hair and glasses, wearing similar clothes to Kaharu. Danzo grips his brown cane with a narrowed eye. Then someone got to him first, he says. He has an X-shaped scar on his chin with black, shaggy hair, and his right eye was bandaged. He wears a long white shirt under a black robe that covers his right shoulder and to the floor. Will your Sharingan be able to take control of him? Hiruzen says. Danzo moves towards the window with a serious look. It will, and we'll have Uzushio's daimyo under Konoha's control. Then Uzushio's riches as well, he says. The designated time soon arrives and Hiruzen stands at the massive gates of the village with several of his Anbu and A-class ninja hunter Kakashi Hatake, known as Kakashi no Sharingan. I can't believe that bitch kept sensei's son, Kakashi says. He has silver hair oriented to right with his Hitai-8 over his left eye and wearing the standard Konoha uniform. It consists of long-sleeve blue shirt with matching pants, olive green flak vest, blue gloves with a strip medal across the knuckles and black boots. Careful Kakashi. Kushina is known as the Summer Queen and her reach is long, Hiruzen says. The sound of a horse catches their ears and Hiruzen gasps, but Kakashi more so, seeing a large Clydesdale horse but not a normal one. It was black and purple with wisps of smoke running from its body. Haunting, Kakashi says. Hiruzen clears his throat and lights his pipe with a little Kaden chakra. Indeed, and that must be Naruto-kun, he says. The horse comes to the halt with a several haunting neighs as Naruto and Anko sit upon it with the latter sitting sideways. Anko hops down first and turns as Naruto hops down with his cane, so this is Konoha. Strongest of the great five, she says. Arguably, Naruto says, turning his gaze to Hiruzen and Kakashi. They weren't his sensei or gramps in this world but conniving bastards who want power only for Konoha and by extension Fire Country. So this the power of the son of the Summer Queen and she's of the One-Horn tribe. This makes things precarious, Hiruzen thought, feeling the crushing aura. Kakashi was not doing well as Naruto's aura was nothing to scoff at. It's like be drowned in darkness, he thought, seeing the dark aura wafting off Naruto. Hiruzen tips his cage hat down and takes a puff of his pipe. Hello. Welcome to Konoha and thank you for answering our call. He starts, extending his hand. Naruto looks at the hand but keeps his hands on his cane. Some welcome. Especially for someone of my caliber, he says, reaching for the cigarette in his mouth. Anko smirks as the Anbu and Kakashi take offense. Well, things are different back home. So you can't expect such fanfare, she says. Naruto drops his cigarette and grinds it into the ground with his boot. Right. My name is Naruto Uzumaki and this is my wife Anko Uzumaki, he says. Nice to meet you. I am the Sandaime Hokage Hiruzen Sarutobi and this is Kakashi Hatake. He will accompany you into the gate, Hiruzen says and Naruto slowly nods. Mother tells me, you were a student of my father, Naruto says. Yes, he was a great man and an even greater sensei. Now I'll be leading the team with two other Jonin, Kakashi says. Let's head into the village to discuss things further, Hiruzen says. Naruto turns to his horse and raises his right hand with a small wave, and all of them gasp but Anko as it melts into smoky shadows. What was that? Both men thought. Anko takes her husband's left arm to follow the Hokage and his contingent. I wonder what they are like, Anko thought. One can only wonder, mistress. This is not the home of our past, Whis muses. Naruto was having similar thoughts as his eyes trail over the splendor of Konoha. I have to remember. They won't be our Tenten. Ino and Hinata. They are simply strangers, he thought. It will be hard to suppress those feelings. However, if they are beautiful as before, Konoha may use them, Zetsue says. True. According to our spies, certain events did happen. The Uchiha weren't massacred but Itachi Uchiha fled the village with his fiancée copyright Iizumi after the death of his best friend. Her brother Shisui and his mother Makoto, Naruto thought. The group soon reach the tower and make their way to Hiruzen's office. I'm amazed the Yondaime would answer our call, Hiruzen says. She wasn't happy to do so. She still remembers how Konoha and the daimyo treated her. When it was my father's choice to enter the demon tower, Naruto says. She could have warned him, Kakashi says, edge to his tone. Mother did not warn me either. If my father was such a great man as many tell me, then he should have prepared accordingly. Naruto rebuffs and Kakashi took offense, but Hiruzen raises his hand. The death of a Kage is noteworthy, especially since he was an SS-class hunter. Hiruzen counters and Naruto waves dismissively, giving him the supposed argument. True. Now tell me about the gate, Naruto says. Hiruzen leans back in his chair and ushers Kakashi to explain, and he clears his throat. It was a C-class gate and we sent in our rookie 9. However, once they entered, the gate changed to an A- class or even stronger. Kakashi explains and Naruto narrows his eyes as do Anko. Rookie 9 inches, Anko asks. It's a squad made up of our rookie genin. All of them from our great clans, Kakashi replies. One of which is your half-sister. Hiruzen interjects and Naruto betrays nothing. So that's it. He wants me to enter the gate to save their future clan heads, including my sister. Then while I'm here, have Danzo pick my brain to make me loyal, Naruto thought. Sister? Naruto says, glancing to Anko. Yes, Fuyumi Namikaze is your half-sister and a part of the Rookie 9 squad. They formed a larger squad but are made up of smaller teams led by myself. Asuma Sarutobi, Might Guy and Kurenai Yuhi, but the latter won't be accompanying us due to her stupid actions, Kakashi explains. Stupid actions? Anko asks. She disobeyed orders, Hiruzen replies. Naruto clears his throat with a sigh. So where is the gate and when do we leave? We don't want a dungeon break, he says. The gate is inside the Forest of Death. Asuma and Guy have went ahead to inform the guards, Kakashi explains. Well, let's go kill a boss, Anko crows, thrusting her fist into the air, and both men sweat drop as Naruto sighs. Forest of Death. The forest was as imposing as ever and according to stories was the site of a dungeon break, but due to the trees created by Hashirama it spread to its current form. It creates weak gates and its wildlife was mutated, thus used for the Chunin exams to test the genin hunter's mettle. The gate is this way, Hiruzen says, leading them to one of the entrances where numerous people were running around. However, two stood out as the son of the Sandaime and one potentially on the verge of becoming an S-class hunter. Yosh, they have arrived, Guy shouts. He still has his bowl cut and thick eyebrows, wearing a green jumpsuit with orange leg warmers and a Jonin vest. No need to shout, Asuma says. He has black hair and a full beard with a cigarette in his mouth, wearing the standard uniform but has a sash from his time as a fire guardian. However, both men snap into a cold sweat as Naruto's power falls on them. I hear he may be as powerful as the Yondaime was or even stronger. He's not ranked among hunters so no one knows, and he's only some kid. No older than our rookies, Asuma says. He is indeed powerful and the young woman with him is as well, Guy says. Asuma, Guy, this is Naruto and Anko Uzumaki, Kakashi says, and they exchange pleasantries. Naruto then turns his gaze to the gate itself. Most low-ranked gates are stable, but this, he thought. Otsutsuki. Zetsue questions. Possible, but why though? Naruto thought and turns his gaze to Hiruzen. How long have they been in there? Naruto asks. About 2 days, Kakashi says. Naruto cups his chin in thought and looks back to the gate. They could be dead already. However, there is no telling what was inside. We shouldn't risk any more of your people. Anko and I can handle this alone, he says. What? Asuma snaps, but Hiruzen raises his hand. That is most generous of you, but if that is case, then we would take all the spoils to make this concession, Hiruzen says. Crafty, Naruto thought but smiles, of course. The gate should remain open for at least 1 day after the boss is killed. So do as you feel best, he says. Naruto then raises his cane and Hiruzen gasps as it turns into a katana with whirlpool guard and a diamond on the sheath. Well, we'll be on our way, Naruto says. Hiruzen watches Naruto and Anko enter the gate with a calculating eye, that which has taught him well, he thought. Was that wise Hokage-sama? Kakashi says. This still works. Sai will report on his abilities, Hiruzen says, and Kakashi slowly nods, while Guy weeps about youthful children. So this is it, Anko says. The pair were standing in front of a large cave entrance. Don't sound so bored, Naruto muses, as he slips off a bracelet and tosses it in the air. A plume of smoke erupts from the glowing bracelet and a belt harness appears. Anko takes Zetsue as Naruto catches the harness and proceeds to slip it on around his waist and securing it at the thighs. What do you think is inside? Anko asks. Naruto shrugs as he slips Zetsue into the harness and they make their way inside. Several minutes inside the cave, the pair find the corpse of a spider, and it was the size of a small lion. It resembles a black widow but red in color, with the telltale marking being purple. Spiders. It had to be spiders, Naruto says, checking the corpse and seeing it was burned but slashed in sections. Those rookies have been busy, Anko says, pointing, and Naruto sees numerous spiders, but some were a different color and species. A nest of some kind with multiple species, Naruto says and removes 2 more of his bracelets, tossing them to the ground. Kaga, Akaji, Naruto says and both bracelets glow, exploding with smoke. The smoke dies down to reveal 2 foxes the size of a mature tiger, one brown with red eyes and the other white with blue eyes, each having 6 tails and the bracelet around their necks as a collar. How can we help Naruto-kun? The brown one says. We need to find several hunters. Should be 9 in total, Akaji, Naruto says. Shouldn't be too hard, the white one says and Anko giggles. True, Kaga, can you sniff them out? Naruto says and both foxes sniff the air. The 4 continue through the cave system for some time and find more corpses. So what's your sister like? Anko asks. Not sure. He had her before he went into the demon tower. Mother told me about her when I was 6. So we'll see what sort of person she is, Naruto replies. A dark aura hits them as they reach a large cavern that splits into 2 paths. The boss is in that direction and the hunters that way, Kaga says. You find the rookies. The boss is mine. Kaga, Akaji go with her, Naruto says and the foxes nod. The 4 split off and Anko follows the foxes down a path downward but come to a wall of rock a different color to the rest. Here they are, Anko says, before shattering the wall with a roundhouse kick. Inside were 9 people with a few holding weapons. Who are you? The brash Kiba Inuzuka shouts. He wears a leather form-fitting black jacket with zippers over the chest and sleeves, along with black pants, sandals and metal forearm gauntlets. Anko Uzumaki and they are Kaga and Akaji, Anko says, looking around and seeing they were more or less unharmed. You're from the One-Horn tribe, another says. She recognizes as Shikamaru Nara and gets some gasps. He wears the typical Konoha attire but without a vest and a cigarette in his mouth. For real Shikamaru, Ino Yamanaka and her former sister wife says. She wears purple outfit consisting of a purple high-collar blouse and matching apron skirt with shorts and sandals, carrying a healing staff and a witch's hat. Got it in one. So who's the leader of this merry band? Anko asks. I am and you look enticing. How about we get to know one another? M's Uzumaki, a third says, being the ever-arrogant Sasuke Uchiha. He wears a light blue shirt with shin guards and a black, open front apron with white diamonds on the bottom and black cargo pants, along with steel toe boots. I know I am and unfortunately for you. It's Mrs. Uzumaki. I'm married, Anko says. Married? Then you need to file for divorce and marry Sasuke-kun. The pink hair menace Sakura Haruno shouts and Anko shoots her a dark look, causing her to look away. Bitch, Sakura whispers. She wears a pink black high-collar blouse and with black shorts, pink leggings and knee-high kunoichi sandals with a healing tone. Anko also sees the other members of the Rookie 9 but Hinata was completely different from their previous life and Tenten wasn't among them. For one, Hinata dressed more provocative with a mesh sports bra showing off her flat stomach, light blue short shorts, a white coat with lavender cuffs and middle, along with calf-length ninja sandals and elbow-length gauntlets. Regardless of what you want, Pinky. My husband and I were sent by your Hokage to save you and clear the dungeon, Anko says, but the area rumbles. What was that? Guy's mini-clone and Sun Rock Lee shouts, wearing the same outfit as his father but no vest. Naruto must be engaging the boss, Kaga says. Who's Naruto? Another blonde asks, but her hair looks almost white. She has blue eyes and her hair is shoulder length aside from the ear length side bangs and done up in a small bun. She wears a black uniform jacket with an orange zipper and buttons on the waist and sleeves, orange pleated skirt with white leggings and black sandals. She has a pair of Kodachi swords on her waist with forearm bracers and shin guards. You must be Fuyumi. Well, the simple answer. Your half-brother Naruto Uzumaki, Anko says, and the rookies gasp, or some of them do. My brother, Fuyumi says. What? You didn't know? Anko says and Fuyumi nods. Well, I did. Jijita told me I had a brother but not who he was, Fuyumi says and Anko smirks, stroking Kaga's head. Well, your big brother is a daimyo and the pinnacle of all hunters. Being only 17, Anko says. What? Sasuke snaps. Yep, someone no older than all of you is one of the most powerful even among S-class hunters, Anko says and Sasuke grits his teeth. We should head to the entrance. Naru-kun won't be too long, Anko says. This is our gate. Why should he kill the boss? Kiba shouts but Hinata smacks him. This isn't a gate for us to handle. It's clear we weren't ready, Hinata snaps. White Eye is right. According to the Hokage, this was a C rank dungeon but changed into an A- rank, Anko says. What? We're just Genin C-class hunters, the rotund Choji Akamichi says, wearing tanker armor over the standard attire but the shirt red. Hinata and her cousin Neji narrow their eyes at the White Eye crack but say nothing. Let it go, Neji, she says. He wears a white kimono shirt with long, loose sleeves, matching pants, a navy gray apron tied around his waist, and black shinobi boots. The last of Rookie Nin named Sai creates some ink-shaped mice to spy on Naruto. Danzo-sama will want to know how his powers work, Sai thought. He wears a short black and gray jacket with red straps, a high-collar midriff shirt, black pants, shinobi sandals and gloves with his index and thumb fingers exposed. Well, if you're all ready, let's head to the exit. Kaga go to Naru-kun and let him know the news, Anko says and the white fox trots off. The rookie 9 slowly follow Anko and Akagi to the exit as Kaga heads to see her master kill the boss. Moments earlier. Music. Hellwalker, Sign of Evil, Doom 2016. Naruto removes 2 more bracelets to summon a pair of combat trench knives and slips them into slots on his harness as he makes his way to the boss's chamber. He then slips on a pair of white gloves with black fingers, the number of 6 on the left and 0 on the right in Old English. Will it be a challenge? Zetsue comments, as several spiders attack him but his quicksword deals with them. Naruto slips off the last of his bracelets to summon a compound bow and quiver of arrows. Naruto secures the quiver to his right side as he makes his way through the tunnels. Who knows, he thought, picking up the pace. This dungeon is like a maze, Zetsue comments. True, Naruto thought, stepping on webbing and seeing various animals, even other spiders as well. The webbing gives way to a massive cavern with light blue mana crystals, but hanging above was the boss. It resembles a tarantula with thick red and black legs but a black widow's marking on its back in a white color. That's not the thing of nightmares, Naruto muses, rolling his neck a few times. The boss wasn't moving as all 10 of its eyes were locked on the area where Naruto was standing but was asleep. Thorkel would have a field day. Well, time to work, Naruto thought, pulling 3 poison-tipped arrows. Naruto pulls his bow taut and fires all 3 towards the boss, piercing between 3 of the eyes. The spider screeches as it comes to life, making its way down the webbing in pursuit of its attacker. Naruto's eyes start to bleed into a red iris with 3 comma-like shapes forming but quickly slips into a glowing purple, arise. He utters, as his shadow bubbles and spreads. Those 2 should be enough, Naruto says. On his left is a tall shadow man of about Naruto's height with Viking-like armor and a large double-sided axe, his name being Ironside. On Naruto's right is one even larger and muscular man with a mane of black hair, wearing what appeared to furs of animals, bones with clawed hands and feet. Both warriors were made of shadows with wispy smoke and a purple glow where their skin would be. Beast right flank, Ironside left flank, Naruto shouts, firing more arrows. Both roar to provoke the spider and rush forward at their master's orders. Naruto sprints behind his vanguards and leaps with 5 arrows at the ready, piercing several spots as Ironside slices into and finally through a leg with a roar. Beast tears into one of the larger eyes as the spider screeches, while Naruto lands on its back and firing his remaining arrows as the spider slams into a wall. The poison should be taking effect, Naruto thought, sending his bow into a seal on his medallion. He clenches his fists as white energy surges on his arms, bringing them down with a flurry of punches and cracking the shell. First you crack the shell, then you get the nuts inside, Naruto crows and flashes signs to Dragon. Raiden. Jibashi, Naruto thought, slamming his hands into the broken shell. Lightning surges into the wound as the spider screeches in pain, slamming into the chamber's wall as Naruto vanishes. He lands with a skid and a smirk as Ironside slices off another leg but Beast is tossed into the far wall. The spider suddenly spews a stream of viscous green acid as Naruto dodges and hangs from the ceiling. If I make it a shadow. I wonder if that will be passed on, he thought, dropping down into a crouch. Beast recovers as Ironside appears next to Naruto, followed soon by Beast. The spider growls with 2 of its legs missing and 3 eyes as well with acid still dripping from its maw. Time to end this, Naruto says, drawing Zetsue. She hums as Naruto releases his Ryutsu with a purple-black aura, tremble. Zetsue, he utters. Zetsue glows and extends to 6 feet with several links of chain coming from the hilt. Naruto lowers his stance and rockets forward as the ground cracks. Wind Dragon dance, he shouts, swinging wide. The spider screeches as deep slashes open on its body, spraying dark green blood but the Monarch of Shadows vanishes. Naruto drives Zetsue into the spider's head and grins, Ice Dragon dance. He roars. Ice explodes from the spider's head and it crashes into a wall and finally to the ground, unmoving as Naruto slowly pulls his sword free. Boss slain, Naruto muses, dropping down and seals Zetsue. Naruto turns to the spider boss as Kaga arrives, before raising his right hand and his eyes glow purple once again. Arise, Naruto utters. The corpse jerks as few times before a shadow version of the spider boss rises from its corpse, now black with a purple glow from its eyes and the widow symbol. I'll call you, Kumanga, nah something more, aha Joragumo. That'll be your name Joragumo, Naruto says and the spider screeches. Naruto, Anko-sama is leading the rookies out, Kaga says. Naruto sheathes Zetsue with a roll of his neck as his shadows melt back into him. Good. We're finished here, he says but narrows his eyes. Kaga, he says. Kaga acts quickly and fires several ice needles into several ink mice. It must have been one of them, she says. Naruto slips a cigarette into his mouth and lights it with a match. Konoha is fishing. No matter, it won't help them, he muses. Music end. Hiruzen keeps his eyes on the gate as Danzo has joined him. Be prepared to subdue him, Hiruzen says, unaware Anko could hear every word they said. Anko then turns her attention to the gate as Naruto slowly steps out along with Kaga. About time Naru-kun, Anko shouts, stroking Akagi's head. Naruto simply smiles with a wave as he nears the Hokage and Danzo. the boss has been dealt with and your rookies saved, Naruto says. Thank you Naruto-kun, Hiruzen says, but Naruto narrows his eyes. Uzumaki dono, he corrects, causing Danzo to crease his brow but not betraying his anger. Your reputation precedes you. You conquered the very tower which took your father's life, Danzo says. Naruto gives Danzo an eye smile with a light chuckle. The same could said about you, he says, but shifts his attention to Hiruzen. I'm on a tight timetable. I would like to meet my half-sister and test her measure, Naruto says. Surely you would like to enjoy Konoha's hospitality. Our daimyo does quite frequently, Hiruzen says. Naruto sighs as his eyes blink several times and gives the illusion that Danzo has succeeded. No. Unlike your daimyo who sits on his throne and simply enjoys Konoha's hospitality. I am out clearing gates and bettering my country, he says. So if you can't provide me the chance to meet my sister, I will be on my way, Naruto adds. Wait, I can. My Anbu will escort you back to the Hokage Tower, Hiruzen says, both nodding and all four follow an Anbu with a wolf mask. Did it work? Hiruzen says, after Naruto and company were gone. Danzo grips his cane with a narrowed eye and gnashes his teeth slightly. No. He must be immune. His dragon side must be stronger than his human side and prevents mental attacks, he says. Curse his mother. Then what do we do now? Hiruzen hisses. If he and the girl get along, we can use the girl against him. Perhaps sending her into a high-rank dungeon. Then release she has gone missing. Unlike her father, she's weak and a disgrace to his bloodline. Even my own, Danzo says. You would sacrifice your own granddaughter for Konoha. That is something I could not do, Hiruzen says. Sacrifices must be made for Konoha to remain strong and become the strongest of the great villages, Danzo says. Will you ever tell her? Hiruzen asks. She is but a tool to use for Konoha. Familial attachments serve no purpose, Danzo says, walking away. Hiruzen watches his old friend and rival leave. We may be of a similar mind, but I cannot make such choices. Especially when it comes to my grandchild, he thought. Naruto sits with Anko in his lap in one of the meeting rooms within the cage tower. He sent Kaga and Akaji back home but then pulls out a coat to put on. It is black with light purple draconic patterns down the sleeves and 3 separated coattails with a purple lining. So how will you deal with this? Even if she's your sister. She's the heiress of the Yondaime's Namikaze clan, Anko says, kicking her legs. Naruto strokes her stocking-covered thigh. We'll see what sort of person she is. She may be nothing like him, he says. I can attest to that a little. She was genuinely surprised about you. Hell, you should have seen Hinata. The Uchiha was mightily upset. Same with others. I guess they can't believe someone their age is someone so powerful and of such status, Anko says. What about Panda and Ino? Naruto says. Ino looks the same but weaker and Panda wasn't there, Anko says, frowning, and Naruto touches his forehead to hers. The door of room opens and Fuyumi enters with, of all people, Kurenai. This is my guardian Kurenai Yuhi, Fuyumi says. Hello, Kurenai says. She wears a red mesh armor blouse with only the right sleeve visible, a dress looking similar to bandages with a pattern on it similar to those of rose thorns with white shorts underneath along with kunoichi sandals and black leggings. Greeting, I am Naruto and this is Anko, Naruto says, as Kurenai and Fuyumi take a seat. Thank you for coming our aid, Kurenai says. Let's skip all the pleasantries. The Hokage told us you disobeyed orders and that prevented you accompanying us into the gate, Anko says. Kurenai frowns and glances to Fuyumi with a sigh. I voiced my apprehension about sending my team into a gate alone. So soon after graduating the academy, Kurenai explains. When did you graduate? Naruto asks. 2 months ago, Fuyumi replies. For real, Anko shouts, getting off of Naruto. The monarch narrows his eyes but puts it aside for now. So you voiced an opinion and were shut down, Naruto says. Yes, due to being Fuyumi's guardian they believed I was too close. Even though I am her Jonin sensei as well, Kurenai says. Then your opinion should count for something, but judging by some, it would fall on deaf ears. Even though Fuyumi is the daughter of the Yondaime, Naruto says. Something the two of you have in common is Kushina-sama is the Yondaime as well, Anko comments and Naruto nods. We share a dad too, Fuyumi says, and again Naruto nods. Many speak ill of Kushina-sama. They blame her Yondaime-sama's death, Kurenai says. Even if he chose to enter the demon tower. Regardless of it, what about your mother? Naruto says, and Kurenai frowns. She passed away giving birth to Fuyumi. I became her guardian when she was 4, Kurenai explains. I see. My condolences, Naruto says, and Fuyumi says thank you. You conquered the demon tower that took the Yondaime's life, Kurenai says, and Naruto nods, smirking slightly. Anko pats Naruto on the shoulder with a smirk of her own. He sure did, and is setting his gaze on the heaven tower, she says, and Kurenai's eyes widen. I see. Not May would challenge the heaven tower. Most don't go past the lower floors, Kurenai says. What's the heaven tower? Is it like the demon tower? Fuyumi asks. In a way, but has challenges as well. Plus it is more team-based, Naruto explains. Our team is game planning for it, Anko says. Naruto looks at his watch and reaches into his pocket. Fuyumi. I wish we could talk more. However, I have some business to take care of, he says and rises to his full height, shocking Fuyumi. You can contact me through my guild, Naruto says. Naruto hands Fuyumi the card and she looks it over, a Spada guild. It's one of the top guilds around, she says and Anko smirks. If you want move up the ranks and get good gear, look us up, Anko says and Naruto sighs. Ignore her, it was nice meeting you Fuyumi. Kurenai, Naruto says, as the pair excuse themselves. Fuyumi holds the card as she lets out a shaky breath, that was intense. His power, she says. Kurenai was of a similar mind to her surrogate child, he does give off a heavy aura. Her as well, there are rumors abound that he's unranked but the same rumors have him as SS class or even higher. His mother is known as the Summer Queen. She's a very powerful woman and a dragon, she says and Fuyumi furrows her brow. Rumors say she's not a normal human but a dragon. She can turn into one too, Kurenai adds. Is that what attracted Dad to her? Fuyumi asks, shocked. In a way, it was more political than romantic. Konoha and Uzushio were old allies but after Yondaime-sama's death it became cold as ice. So much we removed the red spiral from our Chunin and John invests. I am actually shocked Sandaime-sama convinced Uzushio to help us with this gate, Kurenai replies. Fuyumi looks back at the card in thought, my brother is pretty amazing. Maybe, she thought. Fuyumi shakes those thoughts away as she and Kurenai leave the tower before parting ways, with the blonde heading to check on some new gear. Several greet her as she traverses the village, unlike some of the clan heirs and heiresses she wasn't stuck up or arrogant about her status. Welcome to Higarashi's, a man says. He is tall and muscular man with black hair and dark gray eyes, wearing forge-style clothes. Hello, just looking for a new sword or swords, Fuyumi says. Name's Senasuke. We sell some premium blades. Made from even more premium materials, the man says. Fuyumi slowly nods with a soft smile and goes to peruse Senasuke's wares. There were various swords of various sizes, shapes, forms or styles. Do I want to stick to my kodachis or change to a longer sword, Fuyumi thought. She continues on but stops at a katana with a round guard and the hilt black and red with a corded red ribbon. That is special one. It was dropped from a gate in Iron Country. Hunter sold it without a second thought. Didn't recognize the quality at all, Senasuke states. Fuyumi picks up the sword and slowly draws it to reveal a black blade. Wow, she says, her tone excited. The price is 30,000 but since you seem to know your way around a blade. 20,000, Senasuke states. Fuyumi sheathes the sword with a nod and smile. Sold, she declares and Senasuke smirks. Scene break. Next day. The next day Fuyumi meets up with her teammates of Team Kurenai. Shino greets her first with soft hello, wearing the classic clothes of her clan. She can control her Kikaichu insects but others as well due to hunter abilities. Another sword, Hinata sneers. She and the Hyuga heiress didn't get along as Hinata felt the blonde didn't deserve her status as the Yondaime's daughter, like many in the village felt she didn't live up to her father's legendary status. I found it at Higarashi's. He said it was dropped from a gate, Fuyumi says. Kurenai appears with her rose petal shunshin and her team greets her. I know the incident with the gate happened yesterday but we can't rest. We can be called at a moment's notice. So we'll be taking a normal C-rank mission to Nami no Kuni but you three should know. We'll be facing bandits and possibly missing nin in the employ of man called Gato, Kurenai explains. Do we know their rank? Hinata asks. The client Tazuna believes that it may be simply Gato's thugs but we should be prepared for a Jonin-level missing nin, Kurenai says. Isn't Nami near Uzushio? Why didn't Tazuna-san ask for their aid? Shino asks. Hokage-sama asked a similar question and Tazuna told him that Gato controls the waterways and he was lucky to get to the mainland but he's also building a bridge to Fire Country and that will break Gato's control. So our mission is to protect Tazuna until his bridge is finished. So be prepared for an extended mission, Kurenai explains and the three nod. Amegakure no Sato, Land of Rain. In the Land of Rain is the village of Amegakure, a village built on several levels with numerous pipes filtering the constant rain into a large lake around the village. In one of the taller towers of the village were three ninja known for fighting and earning the respect of Hanzo the Salamander, so much he named them the Densetsu no Sanin. I just got a message from Kushina Obasan. Naruto has finished the gate in Konoha and is heading to Suna, speaks Naruto Uzumaki. He has blood-red hair that covers and frames his face, currently covering his violet right eye. Unlike Naruto's previous world he doesn't possess the Rinnegan but has an ability called Living Poltergeist, which allows him to split his consciousness between 6 foe bodies. Each body was designed by Naruto and wears samurai armor, all with a unique weapons and names. Their names were Wildfire, Hardrock, Halo, Strata, Torrent and Inferno. He also has his clan ability to create chakra weapons and his specialty were swords, also being a censor as well. All this to see the son of their fallen cage, says Konan Shirayuki. She is one of Naruto's mistresses and is virtually the same as the previous world. Her blue hair is longer this time around and done into a bun with hair needles, similar to Naruto's distant relative Mito. He probably only did it to increase his army with the boss, the last of the Sanin Yahiko Senju states. Yahiko looks identical to his previous world self as Diva Pain but none of the piercings and has blue eyes. He wears a shinobi shozoku like Nagato and Konan with having the kunoichi variant, with long black tailcoats having 2 tails, buttons down the middle to the waist and red clouds on the sleeves and back. Naruto wants to be able to impart a shadow soldier for everyone in Uzu to keep them safe in case of an invasion. Plus he's prepping for the Heaven Tower, Nagato says, and Yahiko scratches the back his head. So is he taking the whole espada or just his harem? Yahiko says, a joking smile on his face. Konan glances back with a dark look in her amber eyes that promised pain later. He hasn't fully decided yet. Kaguya, Thorkel and Anko have agreed to go. However, Tsunade is still on the fence, as am I, she says. Entering the Heaven Tower means spending a significant amount of time inside, especially if you want to climb to the higher floors. Plus I know he doesn't want to leave Uzushio completely undefended, Nagato comments. The door opens and Hanzo enters with several of his men, causing the 3 to slip into serious mode. So what does the Summer Queen want? Hanzo says. He is a rather muscular man of above average height, with long blonde hair reaching down to his back and a prominent scar on his right cheek. He wears a dark hat on his head and the lower half of his face mostly obscured by a helmet-like respirator, a loose wetsuit-like outfit accented by bandages wrapped around his wrists and lower legs, a flak jacket with swirls on the chest plate and a dark cloak that reached down below his waist. Kushina-sama wishes to enter into an alliance with AIM. She knows you have issues closing gates and often rely on you to be the deciding factor, Yahiko says. Hanzo narrows his eyes but chuckles, that woman's reach is long. So what is her offer? He says. She would want us to establish a guild here. We would supply some members and allow your people to be trained up, Yahiko explains. She would also like to put the seemingly endless supply of water to use, Nagato adds. And how would she do that? Hanzo asks. As we speak, her son and our guild master Naruto Uzumaki is heading to Suna to establish an alliance. One of the things he will offer is water. He and his mother have created a seal to transfer water over long distances. Your country would be paid for this service naturally, Konan replies. There is also the added benefit that earth, fire and even wind will be weary to incite battles here, as Tsunade would become your ally as well. Also having the Shadow Monarch at your call to aid you in times of need will deter them as well, Nagato adds. Hanzo stares at the 3 ninja he dubbed the Sannin but laughs, ha ha ha. Having the daimyo of Uzushio and son of both the Summer Queen and Kiroi Senko as an ally is something no sane person would pass up. So I accept your terms, and what would be the guild established here called, he says. Akatsuki, Yahiko says, and Hanzo chuckles once again, nodding with a mutter of interesting name. Tsunade no Sato, Land of Wind. In the Land of Wind, if one were to look up they would see a large wyvern flying through the sky towards the village of Sungaku. On the back of the mighty beast is Naruto with his arms folded and Anko sitting cross-legged in front him. What can we expect from the cage? Anko shouts. The wind was buffeting their hair as Naruto looks down. He's a shrewd man but loves his village. According to our spies, he's been selling his chakra-converted gold dust to keep the village thriving. The Lord of Wind, if you can call him that, is a hedonistic fool and is squeezing the village dry. They clear gates pretty frequently but the lordship's people takes the majority. Same with shinobi missions which he often outsources to Fire Country, he shouts. So when Mama offers them a chance to align with a powerful nation, a chance to clear high-level gates and a near-limitless supply of life-giving water, the cage should side with us, Anko shouts and Naruto nods. He orders the wyvern down several miles from Suna itself to keep from scaring the locals. Why didn't we scare them with Casimir? Anko says, with a mischievous smile. Naruto dispels Casimir with a stare. You've grown more mischievous in this world, he says. Anko closes the gap and wraps her arms around his back with a bite of her lips. It's because I'm married to baddest man on the planet, she says. Naruto chuckles and leans down to capture her lips. When we get some downtime, I'm gonna give you a limp, he says. Anko giggles perversely as they pair take off at Jonin speed to Suna. Maybe we should wait until we pick up Konan. I kinda in the mood for an orgy, she shouts. Naruto shakes his head with a soft smile. Alright. This shouldn't take long anyway, he shouts. The ray of sky soon comes into view as the entrance to Suna itself, causing both to slow up as several guards were appearing at the entrance. Halt! One shouts, wearing a tan cloak and having a nondescript build. Naruto reaches into his cargo pocket and pulls out a scroll. I am Naruto Uzumaki and this is my wife Anko. We're here to see the cage at the behest of Yondaime Uzukage Kushina Uzumaki, he says. The other guards flinch at Naruto and Kushina's names as the first guard takes the scroll. We'll have to check you for weapons and you'll have to hand them over, he says. Naruto removes his remaining bracelets, weapons pouch and cane as Anko does same with Whis in her pouch. Then they are patted down and soon lead through canyon walls into Tsunade. The village itself is a fortified valley with the buildings made of clay or stucco with blowing sand around. Anything we should know? Naruto asks. The guard glances Naruto's way with a shake of his head. Just keep yourself respectable, the guard says. Of course, I'm a daimyo. I know all the etiquette, Naruto says. They soon reach the Cage Tower, which is a large rotund building, before following the Anbu up to the Cage's office. Inside were the Cage Rasa no Sabaku and 3 others Naruto recognizes as the Sand siblings. However, Gaara is a young woman with Temari and Kankuro remaining the same. So, the infamous son of the Summer Queen, Rasa says. He is a stern-looking man with auburn hair, dark eyes and wearing a simple black jacket and pants with mesh armor underneath, along with a white robe and his cage hat on the desk. I am, and this is my wife Anko, Naruto says. Wife, Kankuro says, nearly shouting. He wears all black with maroon mixed into hood in the form of stripes and purple face paint. That's right, I'm all his and he has 3 other lovers as well, Anko says, and Kankuro balks. Rasa says nothing but clears his throat, my youngest son Kankuro. These are my daughters Temari my oldest and Gaara my youngest, Rasa states, both bowing. I'll skip the placating words. Uzushio offers Tsunade a chance to get out from under the wind daimyo, Naruto says. And how would you do that? Temari states. She wears a purple long-sleeve blouse with a high collar underneath a gray top, and a dark blue skirt with a split in the middle revealing her purple leggings, fingerless gloves and sandals. Anko giggles with a smirk and folds her arms, Fuinjutsu. Naru-kun and his mother have created a seal. A seal that will transfer water to Suna, she states. Also, if your village works with us, you'll get access to high-end gear and chances at high-ranked gates, Naruto adds. Why such generosity? Gaara asks. She wears a crimson long-sleeve blouse with a folded collar and a black top, black shorts with a front-open crimson apron skirt, mesh stockings and sandals with a large gourd on her back. Naruto pockets his hands with a serious look. I'm a daimyo and I'm ashamed how the Wind and Fire Lords are acting, he says. Rasa knew what Naruto meant as their own daimyo outsource missions and dungeon clears to Fire Country. You're a rarity. Most daimyo only concern themselves with who makes them the most money, Rasa states. Naruto folds his hands behind his back. Indeed, Lightning and Earth hound me the rights to their gates, he says. Rasa leans back his chair with a calculating look on his face. I'm willing to consider your offer. If you personally and only you assist my children in clearing a gate, he says. Naruto tilts his head but an amused look on his face. You're a shrewd man. I'll do it and I'll even sweeten the pot by giving you proceeds, he says, shocking the Sand siblings. Just like that, Temari shouts and Anko giggles, patting her man on the back. Naru-kun may be unranked but that's only because they can't rank him, Anko says, and Naruto smirks, his eyes now glowing purple and the Sabaku family feel an icy chill up their spines. He's strong, the siblings thought. The Sand siblings and Naruto step through the gate into an arid realm of sand. A ghost of smile forms on Gaara. You'll be at home here, Shukaku-sama, she thought. In a mindscape of endless sand is a large tanuki, it would seem so. However, be careful of your companion. I believe he could fight my brother Kurama and win, Shukaku says, and Gaara's breath hitches. Naruto secures his sword in her harness as he follows the siblings. It seems some things have changed. Gaara is not as maniacal as our previous world and a girl, Zetsue comments. He glances to Redhead but shakes his head, slipping a menthol cool into his mouth. Gaara's kinda cute but it'll be hard to separate the two, Naruto thought, and Zetsue giggles. The 4 continue through the desert but find no signs of life, however life was stalking them. Naruto halts in his tracks with black pigmentation around his eyes. Everyone freeze, he shouts. The siblings halt and turn as a large brown worm with a black beak emerges from the sands behind Naruto, but its life was snuffed out by his quicksword. Kankuro makes a face as orange blood and guts land on the ground. So gross. He thought. Do you know hand signs? Naruto signs. We do, but what was that? And how did you know? Temari signs. Naruto points to the black on his eyes. I'm a sage and those must be the creatures of this gate, he signs. Definitely don't anger him. Sages are one with nature and can gather natural chakra, which makes them even more powerful, Shukaku says. Are we clear? Gaara signs. Still 4 more. I'll distract them. Can you 3 get above me? They're attracted to sound. Naruto signs. I can use my fan. While Gaara can use her sand to carry Kankuro, Temari signs. Gaara creates a platform of sand for them as Temari uses her large fan, while Naruto remains unmoving. What will he do? Gaara thought, but she quickly got her answer. Naruto slowly draws Zetsue from her harness and raises her skyward. Awaken, he utters. All 3 Sand siblings feel a weight on their shoulders and gasp as the sword changes. Zetsue was now a Scottish claymore with black blade having a reddish tint and a silver dragon imprinted around the pommel. It must have dropped from a dungeon, Kankuro says. Maybe. So who knows what it can do? Temari says, but like her sister got an answer. Naruto drives the blade sand with a twist, Earth Dragon dance. He shouts. The worms burst from sand on top of rocky spikes with orange gore spewing from their wounds and 3 tentacle-like mouths from their maw. The 3 drop down as Naruto removes his sword from the sand. Are there any more? Kankuro signs. Naruto stares at Kankuro for a few seconds to unnerve him, but he smiles. We're fine. Those seem to be scouts, Naruto says. Strange creatures, Gaara notes. Naruto squats down to place his right hand on the worm as his eyes turn purple. Arise. He utters. Temari and Gaara gasp as a dark counterpart of the worm emerges from its corpse. What sort of power is that? Temari thought. Kankuro was shaking in fear as Naruto repeats the process with the other worms. What was that? Kankuro says. Naruto sends his new scouts out. You've heard of the Monarchs, he asks. They are humanoid monsters with inhuman power. They surpass even the SS class, Temari explains. You would be right. I was given the power of a monarch by the original Shadow Monarch. This power allows me to resurrect monsters and people as my shadow soldiers, Naruto explains, shocking the Sand siblings. So if you killed an S-rank hunter, you could make them your soldier, Kankuro says, slight fear in his tone. I can, but they would be only a shadow. I would only gain their powers, Naruto says. Since you're the Shadow Monarch, that means you've encountered other monarchs then, Temari asks and Naruto nods, shocking the three. 3 monarchs attempted to kill me. I killed one, another escaped and the last, Naruto states. And the last one? Gaara asks but Naruto raises his hand with right eye closed. I've found their nest and those scouts were the tip of the iceberg, Naruto says. What about the boss? Temari says. Not sure yet. One thing is for sure. We can't rush in as we'd awaken the whole nest but I have way around that, Naruto says, grabs a scroll from his cargo pocket. He unfurls the scroll and channels chakra into it, releasing ink with a brush. Hand me your sandals. I'll place the same silencing seal I have on my boots, Naruto explains. Are you sure we should do this? You know in the open, Kankuro says but Naruto quells his fears by bringing forth some of his soldiers. Beast and Ironside were among them including Igris, one of his more powerful soldiers. The Sand siblings slip off their sandals and place them on the scroll. Naruto starts to work on their sandals but his gaze drifts to Igris and a memory wells up. Flashback. Song. Here we go, Chris Classic. Naruto pants heavily with Zetsue released. I can't believe mom threw me into this dungeon but it will give me some good soldiers, he thought. He was surrounded by armored soldiers with various weapons. However, one stood out with blood-red armor covering him from head to toe, a tattered red cape, and a long red hair-like ornament extending out of the back of his helmet. Careful, this one is different, Zetsue says. Naruto smirks and shoots forward as the Red Knight swings his great sword, both clanging with a loud noise and blowing back the other soldiers. Naruto pushes forward as the knight does the same in a crude test of strength. Slowly the ground starts to crack under their boots. Naruto roars and breaks the stalemate with a wind dragon dance, causing gashes to form on the knight's armor as he skids back. Naruto shoots forward again as flurry of swings erupts from both as the ground cracks from each parry. This is fun, Naruto howls, skidding back with several bruises. You may say fun but your body is reaching its limit. You're still not used to me and you're still growing, Zetsue says. Naruto spins and brings his sword down on the knights, creating a double crater but the knight heaves Naruto away. The knight lets go of his large sword and blitzes Naruto from all sides, slamming him into the ground with a thud. Naruto spits up some blood as he rolls onto his side with blurry as the knight calls for his blade, bringing it down but Naruto vanishes. You'll have to forgive me. I can't let this go on too much longer. My young body can't handle it, Naruto says, his voice distorted. Naruto grips his claymore tightly in both hands with a faceless bone-like mask over his face, 2 small holes at the bottom expelling steam with each breath and glowing golden eyes, the white of his eyes black as night. Naruto shoots forward with a shatter of the ground as the knight senses the change in the air. Mikazuki no Mai, Naruto says, creating several afterimages. The knight swings but hits thin air as 2 gashes open on his body, spilling white-hot ichor. The knight skids but Naruto appears above with his sword raised and brings it down, shattering the ground and the knight crashes into a wall. Naruto's mask shatters and staggers back to fall on a throne, before driving Zetsue into the ground with several gulping breaths. Blood-stained Igris, I will repay your ferocity with my loyalty, Naruto thought, preparing to bring the knight back. End flashback. Music end. Naruto finishes their sandals and the 3 slip them back on. Now we can move a little safer, he says. The group takes off at Chunin speed towards the nest, encountering a few worms but several smaller bipedal versions of the worms that were attracted to heat. Temari cuts them down with her battle fan, while Kankuro uses his puppets and Gaara uses her sand. I found the boss. It's to the east of the nest and it is massive, Naruto explains. How massive? Kankuro says. Biju sighs, Naruto says and Kankuro's eyes widen in horror. I'm sure you can handle it. Kankuro and I will go for the nest with your soldiers. While you 2 head for the boss, Temari states. Naruto chuckles and scratches the black portion of his 2-tone hair. That works. Igris take Ironside and Beast to assist Temari and Kankuro, he says. Yes my liege, Igris says, shocking them. Naruto dispels the remaining soldiers and creates his Clydesdale, before climbing on an extending hand to pull Gaara up. Keep her safe, Temari shouts, as the pair gallop off. Hold on tight, Naruto says. Gaara softly blushes and wraps her arms around Naruto's waist as the horse neighs and pants heavily. What happened to the last monarch? You killed one and one fled. What happened to the last one? Gaara asks. Naruto chuckles softly with an amused look on his face, after seeing her compatriots in such a sorry state and learning I was the new Shadow Monarch. She decided to merge with one of my lovers and make her into a monarch. You might know her as Tsunade Senju, he explains. Gaara's teal eyes widen and flicker. Tsunade Senju. The most powerful and beautiful healer, she says, and Naruto laughs. Add to that she is the monarch of plagues, Naruto says. The sand becomes more coarse as old structures of a forgotten civilization appear. Naruto slows his horse as several demonic creatures were in their path. Leave them to me, Gaara says, hopping off the back of the horse. Are you sure? Naruto asks. Gaara's teal eyes turn gold and take the shape of a shuriken with the whites of her eyes turning black. Fu. All fine, Shukaku-sama and I are one, Gaara says, as her gourd breaks down and forms a long tail. Naruto smirks with a nod and gallops off, drawing Zetsue and cutting down a few demons. Music. Hi-Yo-Oh Ashes, Berserk 2016. Naruto picks up speed on his Clydesdale towards where the scouts noted the boss. It was a grotesque version of the normal worms but has signs of abuse as it was hanging from several towers. Naruto brings out a pair of large saber-toothed tigers, standing 10 feet at shoulders, and both roar to bring out fear in most or provoke in the boss. It roars loudly and starts to shake on its shackles, knocking down several levels as it breaks free. The boss slams into the ground and starts to burrow towards Naruto. He picks up speed until the ground wavers as the boss reaches his Clydesdale. The massive worm surges out the ground and catches his summons, but Naruto vanishes, appearing with a skid of smoke along the sky. Come on, big boy, Naruto shouts and swings Zetsue down. Wind Dragon Dance. He roars. The boss screeches in pain as several deep gashes open on its head. It opens its maw wide and spews several dozen detachable tentacles. Naruto dodges them several after images all of the reciting an incantation. Hado Byakurai. They roar, firing blasts of pale white lightning from their hands. The Kido blast pierces several spots on the boss and spewing orange blood to the ground. I guess the only thing you got going for ya is your size, Naruto says. The boss lunges at Naruto but dodges and swings several times, using his darkness dragon dance into the form of several black slashes akin to the swipes of a dragon claw. The boss roars again but weaker as numerous wounds bleed heavily. Naruto raises Zetsue skyward as blue energy starts to wail. Well, this doesn't count as a workout. Dragon Strike, he utters, swinging down. A blue azure eye dragon erupts from blade with a wailing roar, tearing through the boss several times. The boss lists to one side and crashes with a loud thud as Gaara arrives. Song ends. A glow appears near the boss as Naruto lands with the use of a shadow hawk to hide things. Seems there was a drop. I'm actually shocked, Naruto says, reaching out and grabbing a dagger with a flute attached. Strange weapon, Gaara says and barely catches the dagger. It's known as Queen's Bane. It allows the user to summon those worms. The bipedal ones known as Shriekers and another called Fire Spitters, Naruto explains. Why give this to me? You killed the boss, Gaara says, but Naruto shakes his head. Maybe so, but the proceeds go to you and Suna, Naruto says. Temari and Kankuro soon approach, with the latter talking very animatedly and the older sister looking annoyed. The boss dead? Temari asks and Naruto nods, pointing his thumb to the mutilated corpse. Your soldiers were amazing. I need to tell Sasori-sensei about them so we can try to make puppets of them, Kankuro says. Well, if you do, I would like a finder's fee, Naruto says and Kankuro nods. The group exit the gate and their crews rush inside to claim the materials as Rasa was waiting for them with Anko. It seems you come as advertised. Your offer is generous and I accept, but you'll have to deal with Lord Mios, Rasa states. Anko snorts as Naruto clears his throat. I plan to. At the Chunin exams, he says, extending his hand, and Rasa shakes his hand. So are we done? We need to pick up Ko-chan and her two idiots, Anko says and Naruto sighs. Ignore her, but she is correct. I need to go to a Megakure, Naruto says. Rasa arches eyebrow in query, but his breath hitches and Naruto smirks. Fresh water from Aim and salt water from Uzu. My mom will send several of our seal masters to places the seals. If nothing else. Excuse us, Naruto explains, excusing himself and following Anko. Temari, could you involve yourself with such a man? Rasa states, once Naruto and Anko were out of sight. I'll admit he is handsome and powerful. For the survival of Suna I would, but you may not need me, Temari says, pointing her thumb to her younger sister. Rasa glances to Gaara and sees the soft look in her eyes, compared to the normally cold demeanor to those outside their family. The Yondaime chuckles internally and would bring it up the council about allowing one of his daughters possibly becoming one of Naruto's mistresses. Land of Whirlpools, Uzushiogakure. Tsunade Senju is in a volatile mood, and given her soon-to-be legendary temper many avoided the blonde, her honey eyes glowing menacingly and her beautiful face scrunched into an angry scowl. Throw! Tsunade shouts. She wears form-fitting white pants with boots similar to Anko but white and black, a white kimono blouse with no sleeves and a black obi but also a short-sleeved black juban underneath. On the left hip of her pants is 3 in Old English with a high collar jacket discarded. It is white with black sleeves and looks similar to the Sonin's coat but with no clouds. Across from her Thorkel the demon laughs loudly and tosses a large boulder. Here you go, he howls, tossing it. He is an extremely muscular and overly tall man covered in scars, with spiky blonde hair held up by a bandana and a small beard. Tsunade clenches her left gloved fist and shatters the boulder with a single devastating punch. This process continues until the pair were surrounded by shattered rocks. So what has you so upset? Thorkel asks, after drinking from a barrel of ale. He wears black pants and boots, with a long-sleeve mesh armor shirt over a white sleeveless shirt, his coat discarded as well. Tsunade herself has a large bottle of sake. It's nothing. Well, maybe it is. I love Naruto. I love Naruto so much I became his mistress before he's even 18, she starts but a scowl forms. So, I don't get why he would associate with Konoha and Fire Country. Especially after what they did to my great-grandfather and forced my clan to flee, she says. Well, I can't speak for him, but no matter the things they've done. It's his father's homeland. Even though his father is a weak girly man who may have become an SS-class hunter, Thorkel starts and drinks some ale. But I can say he couldn't survive our floor in the Heaven Tower. The fact that he died in the Demon Tower proves my point, Thorkel adds, and Tsunade stifles a laugh at the end. True, and Naruto cleared that same tower at 15, Tsunade said, before taking several pulls from her bottle. So how's that sexy monarch doing? She was pretty upset about Naruto leaving too, Thorkel asks. Tsunade glances his way with a snort, angry. She's destroying our mindscape. Oh, she has her opinion on things. One sec, she says and closes her eyes. Thorkel blinks as Tsunade's blonde hair gains several black streaks, her pouty lips turn black. She opens her now haunting red eyes and she is no longer Tsunade but the monarch of plagues Querasha. I am. Naruto is the new shadow monarch. When we attacked, we assumed he was like the others but we paid for it. The beast monarch is dead. The frost monarch fled back to tower and to save myself I merged with this one. Like her I love Naruto because I love the shadow monarch. My love I've learned from Tsunade and his harem is called yandere love and I can agree with that assessment, she says and pauses. Poisonous breath of green and purple escapes her dark lips. I have accepted that Anko is his head wife and I've accepted Konan. Kaguya and Tsunade as his lovers. However, any others who attempt to get close to my Naruto-kun, I will kill them, unless he says no, Querasha says, blushing and touching her cheeks in a yandere pose. She recedes back into Tsunade and the blonde sighs as Kaguya approaches but her honey eyes narrow as a swirl appears. Ziahaha. Naruto and company are back, Thorkel shouts, downing more ale. Naruto, Anko and the Sannin appear via Naruto's Mangekyo Sharingan ability known as Kamui. This causes Tsunade to shoot to her feet, grabbing her coat and marching towards the group. Come on, Tsunade hisses, dragging him along with a giggling Anko, a quiet Kaguya and a stoic Konan following. Oof, I guess having a nymphomaniac monarch is a problem. I feel for you, cousin, Yahiko comments. Tsunade was upset about him going to Konoha, Nagato says. Thorkel suddenly slaps the pair on their shoulders. Well, since you're here, how about helping me, he says, and both pale. Hiruzen sits at the of a U-shaped table with the shinobi clan heads and merchant guild members, as I am sure your heirs and heiresses have already informed you. However, I'll repeat it for the merchant guild. Minato's son, Naruto Uzumaki and daimyo of Uzushio came to our village, Hiruzen says, and everyone starts to murmur. Mendoku-say, is he as dangerous as the rumors say? Shikaku Nara and Jonin Commander asks. He wears the standard Konoha attire with a few scars on his face and an ear ring. Hiruzen takes a puff of his pipe and sighs, yes, and compared to Minato. I believe Naruto is stronger, he says and gasps echo. Bullshit, he's no older than my son. Tsu Minazuka and father of Kiba shouts, wearing the standard Konoha attire but his shirt black. Hiruzen unleashes some of his aura. I am still an S-class hunter and I wouldn't joke about his power, he says. He did conquer the Demon Tower. However, that doesn't prove anything. What did our Jonin report? Fugaku Uchiha states. He wears the standard flak jacket, along with a black shirt and the Konoha military police force symbol on the shoulders, shin guards and a black, open front apron with white diamonds on the bottom. He stopped our Jonin from entering the gate and Sai's Sumijutsu was stopped as well. However, Kakashi and I witnessed him ride a horse made of shadows and dispel it with a simple wave of his hand, Hiruzen explains and the council murmurs. A skill similar to our clan but able to create a horse. Then could he create soldiers as well, Shikaku says. That level of control is impossible, Choza Akamichi says, wearing standard Konoha attire with a hachimaki tied around his forehead. Never discount it. He is the son of the Summer Queen and her powers are mostly unknown, Inoichi Yamanaka comments. He wears the gray uniform of Konoha's T&I department and black trench coat. Changing the subject, my daughter reported a young woman with Uzumaki. She remarked she was his wife, Hiyashi Hyuga states. He wears a white kimono with dark obi and long brown coat. Yes, her name is Anko and she's a member of the One-Horn tribe, Hiruzen says. Kukuku. That's interesting as from my encounters with them. They don't associate with anyone outside their tribe. This should give credence to some of Naruto-kun's strength, speaks one of the 3 students of Hiruzen known as the 3 Beasts. It may very well Orochimaru, Hiruzen says. Orochimaru is a pale man with snake-like yellow eyes and long black hair, wearing the standard Konoha attire. Who cares? Minato's brat should have lived here. No matter what that bitch said, shouts the second of the 3 Beasts Jiraiya. He is muscular man with a mane of white hair and dark eyes, wearing a green GI with a red vest and Geta sandals. And risk all-out war. Uzushio has powerful allies within the tower and will come to her aid, speaks the final member of the 3 Beasts Shirahoshi Senju. She is very beautiful woman with a sinful figure, long dark tresses and cobalt eyes. She wears a mesh bodysuit under a revealing dark blue battle kimono. Shirahoshi-chan is right, Fire Country cannot afford a war. Iwa or Kumo could take advantage with their Biju, Hiruzen says. Then why haven't we acquired one of our own? Kiri is embroiled in a civil war. Taki is a weak nation and the same could said for Suna. Also the Kyuubi on the loose, Danzo states. I agree with Danzo-sama. We've never had a Jinchuriki. Perhaps it is time we do, Fugaku says and some of council murmur. Hiruzen leans back in chair and puffs his pipe, I will reflect on it. This meeting is dismissed, he says and the council soon files out, leaving the 3 Beasts and Danzo. Shisui's Sharingan failed on him, Hiruzen says and Jiraiya TSKS in anger. Then what do we do? Shirahoshi says. Hiruzen takes a few pulls from his pipe, Danzo has agreed to use Fuyumi. They spoke for a time and she can perhaps build a rapport with him. I'll have her team sent to Uzushio as an olive branch. If they can grow closer. Then we'll send her team into a high-level gate. Anbu will shadow to evacuate the heiresses but we'll sacrifice Fuyumi and Kurenai, he says. She's nothing like Minato. At least she can be of some use. Kawaki is coming along well. Orochimaru's growth hormones have him near the brat's age. Kawaki may be the same age as your grandson but physically he's the same age as the brats, Jiraiya explains. Did he awaken the Mokuden? Shirahoshi asks. Orochimaru chuckles softly with a glint in his yellow eyes, of course. It was nearly impossible to replicate your ancestors' famed Mokuden but thanks to me. It has been reborn. His right arm is the latest prosthetic from Amato Futures but for more military purposes, he explains. We'll need to keep Kawaki under wraps. Lest we anger the Senju in Uzushio, Hiruzen says and Shirahoshi scoffs. We the true Senju have no fear of traitors. Even if one proclaims herself as Hashirama-sama's granddaughter, Shirahoshi states. I hear she's beautiful. I'll get my spies to get us some pictures, Jiraiya says and Shirahoshi scoffs again. Going forward, we need to get Naruto under our sphere of influence or ingratiate ourselves to him. It's only a matter time before others attempt the same, Hiruzen says and his students nod but Danzo doesn't. Unknown location. Music. Boruto Ost, Kara. He cleared the gate, a voice says. Several projections sit in a circle of stone thrones all with white eyes, save a few with one having Sharingan eyes. He's got skill, one says, in a snobby tone. He is the Shadow Monarch. He scared the Frost Monarch into hiding on one of the upper floors Momoshiki, a second says. He's still a disgusting mongrel. Kinshiki, Momoshiki sneers. Tell us more about him, a third says. The first speaker brings up a projection of Naruto. He became daimyo at 14 after his mother abdicated to become the full-time Uzukage. The other daimyo fear him. Simply because of his age and the fact he doesn't rely on his village to work for him, they explain. He looks quite strong and not fully grown. Fufu for a human I could play with him, the first female voice says. Calm yourself Ida, Victor can your spies ascertain when he'll enter the tower, a fourth voice says. The now named Victor shakes his head, no I cannot Arashiki-sama. His residence is protected by seals and Uzushiogakure has an early warning system in the form of his shadow soldiers. I gained the information I have through the guilds, he explains. Ida feels he's interesting. Maybe I'll have to have some fun with him too, a fifth voice says. He'll dance well code, he's my great-grandson, a sixth voice says. Regardless the other monarchs may move on him before he enters the tower save Frost as he will deal with him on his floor. For now we'll continue to observe him, a final projection says and all of them cease. Victor sighs heavily and falls back in chair, so he's only 17. 3 years younger than me, a voice says and Victor looks up to see a young woman. She has long blonde hair with purple eyes, her figure voluptuous under a green blouse with a window and pinstripe pants, with high-heel boots to her knees. And more dangerous than you Delta, Victor snaps. Delta huffs with an unleash of her aura, don't presume to talk to me in any way. I may pay this Naruto a visit during the Chunin exams. I'm sure he'll attend to curry favor and build his guild, she says and leaves a frightened Victor. Song ends. Naruto slowly wraps tape around his left hand, so who is it this time Askeladd? He asks, with lipstick marks of various shades all over his bare chest. Askeladd has light blonde hair, blue eyes with his eyebrows thick and flicked upwards at the outer edges, and a small, neatly groomed goatee. He wears a black three-piece suit with a long white scarf and white gloves. He is Naruto's spymaster and right hand, coming from the tower's 10th floor. A near-frozen wasteland that builds warriors both male and female. Not sure. He won't talk but Bjorn did break his jaw. Askeladd says and chuckles. We healed it though, he adds, opening the door. A blonde-hair man was bound with his hands behind his back and head down. Next to him was Bjorn and Askeladd's best friend. He is a stocky man with dark, scruffy, black hair reaching down his neck with his beard tied by a string to resemble a goatee. Give me another hour and he'll talk, Bjorn says, wearing a similar outfit to Askeladd but no coat. Naruto cracks his left hand with a dark look. He interrupted my fun time, he says, and both knew immediately what their boss meant. Now this can go one of two ways. Every time you don't answer my questions, I break a finger, or if you answer, I'll simply punch you. Though I punch harder than Bjorn, he says, and gets silence. Well, since you're being awfully quiet. I'll take it you wish to begin, he adds. The man betrays nothing as Naruto looms over him. Where do hail from? Naruto says and gets no response but a snap of a finger. This continues until 8 of his fingers are broken. You'll never get anything from me, the man says, no emotion in his tone. Naruto slips a menthol cool into his mouth and Bjorn lights it. I know, but I did that to you because you interrupted my time with wife and lovers. I'll say it. Danzo sure trains them well, he says, and the man gasps, causing his captors to laugh. You know my soon-to-be dead friend. We know how paranoid Danzo and by extension Fire County are. It's the reason you were caught. Now since you're going to die, I'm gonna monologue like a movie villain, Naruto says, and Askeladd laughs. My sister Fuyumi, I've known about her since I was 6. Mother suspected my father could have other children given his lecherous sensei. So she found Fuyumi, the daughter of the heroic 4th Hokage and Kiroi Senko, living in an orphanage and then adopted by her guardian Kurenai Yuhi, Naruto explains. Perhaps it was out of fear. Kushina-sama did announce you were his son. Haha, Konoha couldn't just announce that Fuyumi was his daughter too. Haha, even if she looks more like him than you do, Askeladd says, laughing a bit. Thank Kami. Anyway, moving on. Imagine my shock when we learned that Fuyumi's mother was Danzo's daughter and he doesn't care about her due to being an emotion-hating warhawk, Naruto says and looks the man in the eye. Doesn't even care that his own daughter gave her last breath so her child could breathe her first. Well, he did disown her. However, I now learn I have brother and he possesses the famed Mokuden, Naruto says, holding up his hands in quotes at the end. What Konoha doesn't know is Tsunade-chan possesses her great-grandfather's Mokuden, but hers is more plant-based. Thus her name is the legendary healer and queen of poison, Askeladd says. Naruto blows several smoke rings with a smirk. They didn't bother to care. Cause she wasn't creating forests or capturing Biju like Hashirama, he says. The door is suddenly kicked off the hinges. Naru-kun, you didn't tell me you were going to torture somebody. My torture senses went off. Anko whines, half-dressed but wearing her skirt and a bra. Bjorn slams into a wall from a nosebleed and Askeladd laughs. Sorry Anko-sama, Askeladd says. Naruto makes a face with puffed cheeks. He interrupted our fun time, he whines, dropping into her bountiful bosom. It's okay Naru-kun. And Chan's milk tanks are all yours, Anko coos, stroking his head. Askeladd clears his throat with a chuckle. We still need to finish with him, he says. Naruto pulls free from Anko's. Right. Back to it. My brother Kawaki, I wonder how they'll use him. I suspect adding him to the Rookie 9 and debut him at the Chunin exams. Haha, what a legacy. Son of the Kiroi Senko and descendant of Hashirama Senju and unlike his siblings. Completely loyal to Konoha and Fire Country, he says. Well, I'm done monologuing. Kill him and Chan, Naruto adds. Anko giggles as she places her right index and middle finger to the man's chest as Bjorn lifts him up. Hado Byakurai, she says. The man spews blood from his mouth as pale lightning pierces his chest and out his back. Give him a proper burial. If he has family, conveniently help them, Naruto says, and both men nod, as Naruto and Anko leave. You have good heart, Anko says, leaning into his arm. Naruto snorts with a smile. He's just a soldier in service of a foolish master, he says, returning to their fun. A refreshed and clean couple ride to see Anko's family in the eastern part of Uzushio. She wears a purple and black version of her outfit with black stockings and black ankle boots. Naruto wears blue jeans and harness boots with a white dress shirt, the sleeves rolled up in black suit vest. We need to bring the others next time. Dad would love to drink with Thorkel and Tsunade, Anko says, and Naruto nods. The tribe's territory comes into view as the pair see Anko's brother and sister waiting for them. Anko is the middle child of triplets and one of 9 children as her parents were like rabbits. How's it going sis? Her brother Ento shouts. He's tall and muscular with a black horn and messy light purple hair. He wears the traditional clothes of the tribe and it consists of clothes from ancient China. Fine muscle head. Hey sissy, Anko says. Her sister Enya is nearly identical to Anko but like Ento has golden eyes. She too wears the traditional attire but her sleeves cover her hands and she carries a long sword. I am well. Hello Naru Oriboni, Enya says and Naruto greets her back. Yo Naruto. Care for. Ento starts but Naruto back fists him the face. The three continue on into the village and leave Ento on the ground. Mother is pregnant again, Enya says, and Anko sighs, causing Naruto to snort. Many of the tribe greet Naruto with shouts of "Let's fight to all have your babies." Anko unleashes her aura and that stops everything immediately. I swear, horny women. I even saw a grandma in that rabble, she says. It cannot be helped, sissy. Naru Oroboni is Kushina-sama's son. Many want that bloodline, Enya comments, sleeve to her mouth. The three reach the chief's home with the sounds of children playing out back. Get out and stay out. You got me pregnant again. I thought you said you were wearing protection. A voice shouts. I was wearing my armor. Another voice shouts, then the sound of a dish crashing. The sisters sigh in unison as their father rushes out. He sees his daughters and Naruto. Oh, you're back, he shouts, rushing towards the three and grabbing Naruto in bear hug. Enya, Ento and Anko's father, known as Iyodo or the martial god, is an older version of Ento with a purple beard. Good to see you, Pops, and you're in the doghouse again, Naruto says. Iyodo scoffs as he puts Naruto down. PFF'd. I'll go see my honey on the side, he says. I heard that, a voice says, in sickening sweet tone, and Iyodo freezes. Naruto looks past him to see the wife of Iyodo but also mother of 9 Amiko. She has a dark look on her face but it immediately vanishes as she sees Naruto. Naru-kun. It's so good to see you, she says. Hello, Naruto says, giving her a hug, and she kisses his cheeks. Anko hugs her mother with a pair of kisses to the cheek, and the womenfolk head inside to speak as Ento arrives. Follow me, Iyodo says, and both follow him to the dojo. Iyodo turns to Naruto with a serious look. Have you progressed to the next set? Iyodo asks, and Naruto slowly nods. Iyodo takes a seat on his knees as Ento does the same. Naruto pops his various joints and slips into the first stance, moving his body through each as energy builds through his body. He's progressing well, Ento said, and Iyodo nods. As expected of the son of our summer queen, Iyodo says. Naruto halts his movements and centers himself to release the excess energy. You balance so many different energies. Not many can topple you, Zetsue says. Maybe so, but as Aniki always said. Naruto thought, and Zetsue nods. A sound mind is a sound body, both said. Iyodo claps his hands with a chuckle. All right. How about a spar? He says, and Ento grins. Anko sips her mother's tea with a loving sigh. I still can't make tea like you do, she says. Amiko slips a cracker into mouth with a soft smile. It's a mother's love. Does Naru-kun love your tea? She asks. He does. He enjoys it during the morning or after dealing with paperwork or overload from his clones doing his paperwork, Anko replies. I'm still coming to terms that you, my twin sister, and Naru Oroboni have lived a previous life and found each other again. It's so romantic, Enya says, and Anko smiles. It is. I've loved him for over 70 years and I hope it becomes double, Anko comments. Amiko softly giggles, as does Enya. It's not every day you find your child as a second lifer. When you were old enough to speak properly you shouted. I'm Anko, not Enya, or marry attend to the son of our summer queen, but such is life created by the gods, Amiko says. All three continue drink tea and eat snacks as the screams of Ento or rumbles go unnoticed. Meanwhile, with the torture, a spar continues as Ento crashes into a wall once again. Naruto stands with his upper body shadowed with 2 glowing orbs and wide smile. What's the matter? You're the one who started this fight, he says. Ento staggers to his feet with a wild and angered look as his aura explodes, shooting forward in a low tackle. Naruto simply dodges with a swayback and back step, before connecting with an uppercut to Ento's chin, but he pushes through, grabbing and tossing Naruto with all his might. So, Ento roars. Naruto flies a few feet but catches himself with his right and rights himself back into the hand pocket stance. Ento rushes Naruto again, but he flips him with an Aikido toss, then grabs him by his right pinky and breaks it. Well, let's stand you up, Naruto says, twisting the finger. Ento screams but finds himself standing as Iyodo calls an end to the spar. Nice torture session. I mean spar, Iyodo says. Naruto lets go of Ento and the latter sees his finger dangling. You are so rough with me, Ento says. Because I know you can take it. I do the same to Thorkel. Bro, if you intend to enter the tower and protect Enya or Anko, then I need to beat you until I feel you're ready, Naruto explains. Naruto is correct, the Heaven Tower is nothing like gates. You need to be ready. Now go meditate and clear your mind, Iyodo says. Ento nods and goes to sit down as Iyodo slaps Naruto on the back, sturdy as ever. Tell me, in your second life, did you have tough opponents? Iyodo asks. Not really, but here, everyone is strong and I can fight to my heart's content. I really do hope my great-grandfather is in there. Naruto starts and his eyes glows brightly. I hope he dances as well as the stories, he says, smiling wide. One-Horn Tribe territory. Sakura forests. Naruto makes his way through numerous sakura trees with a bouquet of flowers meant for remembrance. He continues on until a ball hits his leg, causing him to look for the source. The source was a little girl of about 5 with brown hair and purple eyes, but the most curious feature were her fox ears and 2 tails. She wears a red floral kimono with a black obi, matching tabi socks and brown sandals. We named her Amagi in remembrance of her, a voice says, in a deep baritone. Naruto picks up the ball and turns to the Kyuubi no Yoko. I see Kurama, he says. Kurama is a young man with a mane of orange hair, thick whiskers on his cheeks with red slitted eyes. He wears no shirt with a dark gray jacket, black hakama pants with a white obi wrapped around his waist, the access forming two tails in front and no shoes. Amagi sees her papa and runs to him for her to be picked up. She can be a bit shy, Kurama says. Naruto approaches with the ball and holds it to Amagi, but she buries her face in Kurama's chest. Ha ha ha, so what brings you here? Kurama asks, as the pair walk. Naruto sighs with a look into the canopy of trees. I'm intending to go into the Heaven Tower with my espada and I need my Primera, he says. Kurama strokes Amagi on the back. You don't need me. My place is here as guardian of Uzushio, he says. Naruto softly snorts with a smile. I know but wanted to ask. Besides I know it brings bad memories, he says, as they reach a shrine where Akagi and Kaga were waiting. Both were in human forms of beautiful young women wearing Miko-like outfits of their colors. Naruto-kun, both greet. Naruto places the flowers and says a prayer, remembering the day the original Amagi gave her life for him. He was 3 at the time and gotten lost as most children do. He couldn't maneuver his child body and paid for it. Several hunters attacked him on the 5th floor of the tower because of who he was and his guardian died. Once I reach that floor, I will make them pay, Naruto says. Akagi squats down to hug him and Kaga does the same. We will be with you, Akagi says. Naruto rises to his full height but feels a tug and sees Amagi with her arms up. He smiles and picks her up as she hugs him, causing him to remember the original, keeping him safe. Another Hanako taken, but this time I can avenge her, Naruto thought, hugging little Amagi. Naruto sniffles a bit and hands Amagi to Akagi, before stroking her head as big Amagi did for him. Grow up strong and caring like your namesake, Naruto says and Amagi smiles. Kurama looks overseen with a smile and a tear. You were one of my oldest and most loving. Keep watching over your sisters and the Lord of Darkness. Hey, even if he doesn't need it, he thought, but silently gasps as the silhouette of the original Amagi appears and hugs them. Kurama and Naruto soon head to a spot where a blanket was prepared for them. So when are you entering the tower? Kurama asks, taking a seat and laying back. Naruto takes a seat and pours some sake. I have a few things to deal with, but at most a year from now. After my 18th birthday for sure, he replies. Legal adult in most circles. Kushina will throw a grand celebration for you, Kurama says. Anko and the others will have things planned too, Naruto muses, downing his sake. Amagi's ball rolls next to him and he tosses it back to her as Akagi approaches. May I pour you a drink, Naruto-kun? Akagi says, kneeling between them. Naruto lifts his saucer with a smile and Akagi smiles with a pour. Do you still frequent the Demon Tower? She asks. Naruto takes a sip and Akagi pours him another drink. Not too often. Only if the new lord calls for aid against an upstart demon, he says. Or to annoy that ain't a girl, Kurama says and Naruto chuckles, laying back and taking a small nap in Akagi's lap. Flashback. Demon Tower. Music. Doom remixed, Leslie Y. Naruto steps into the tower with a goal to conquer it and gather 10,000 demon souls but to also surpass his father. Naruto was wearing black cargo pants with a few scrolls of food and water in the pockets, a white wife beater tucked in with white gloves and black fingers, goggles on his forehead and Zetsue in her harness. He also has a pair of daggers and his bracelets on his wrists. I can only spend a week in here at most. I need to get as far as I can in that time, Naruto thought. He leaps atop a building and the area resembles a city of his original world but on fire and destroyed. The demons soon appear and Naruto begins his tear through the tower, its first 50 floors cleared in 3 days. Finally a challenge, Naruto muses, looking at the guardian of the 50th floor known as Avarice. It is a morbidly obese demon with a skull-like face, 3 eyes and long jagged horns. Naruto brings forth Ironside and Igris with a dozen other soldiers to deal with Avarice's guards as he draws Zetsue. Tremble, Naruto says, going Shikai. Igris leads the soldiers into battle with Ironside as Naruto launches toward Avarice with the demon meeting him with its club raised. So it is fast despite its size, Naruto thought. The ground shatters at the point of impact as Naruto vanishes, swinging Zetsue with a wind dragon dance. Avarice roars in pain but swings its club with a violent disturbing of the air, destroying several buildings in the process. Naruto blitzes Avarice with several deep slashes. Flame dragon dance, he shouts, firing a blast of flames into Avarice's face. This knocks the demon off balance but swings its club and Naruto dodges, landing on it and rushing down towards the demon's face. Earth dragon dance, Naruto roars, piercing Avarice's head and earthen spikes erupt from its head. Naruto lands with a thud and rests Zetsue on his right shoulder. Arise. He utters, creating a soldier from Avarice now known as Greed. Naruto continues on and soon reaches the 75th floor, which resembles a massive graveyard. He encounters another boss demon like Avarice named Mercurius. Naruto defeats Mercurius in a similar manner to Greed and creates a soldier from it but keeping the caster's original name. I'm close to floor 80. I've got about 2 more days, Naruto muses, blowing a stream of smoke, but his eyes narrow as several of his lower-ranked soldiers were destroyed. It was a day later when Naruto finds the source of his attackers, being 3 demons on horseback and wearing ornate armor. 2 of the knights attack, but Naruto takes them out, while the last knight in red and white armor shakes in fear. "Ho, demons can feel fear," Naruto says, cutting an imposing figure with his upper body shadowed. However, the knight attacks with their spear, but Naruto dodges with an impressed look. "They aimed for my vitals," he thought. Naruto shoots forward and breaks open the knight's guard and shatters their spear. I give up," the knight shouts, stopping Naruto from going for his dagger. "They can talk," Naruto thought. The knight removes their helmet to reveal a girl with long purple hair braided to her mid-back with light red eyes and red marking around her eyes. "Please spare my life. I am sorry for attacking," the knight says, frantically. Naruto spits out the butt of his cigarette. "Yet you're looking for an opening to kill me," he says, and the knight falls to her knees with her face on the ground. "Forgive me. I'll give you whatever you want," the knight shouts, and Naruto's sweat drops. "All right, I want to move past this floor," Naruto says. "The pass to the next floor is the protection of my clan. If you spare me and return me home, I will make sure you can move on," the knight says. Naruto rolls his neck and sighs. "All right, take me to your home," he says. "I am Aina of the Ramirez clan," the knight says, and Naruto would sorta regret not killing her. Music ends. End flashback. Naruto opens his eyes with a sigh but feels a weight and sees a small brown fox kid with 2 tails. "She's cute," he muses, petting Amagi. "We hope to raise her like big sister Amagi," Akagi muses. Naruto slowly sits up as to not disturb Amagi and strokes Akagi's head. "Just be the good sisters you can be and don't fight with Kaga," he says, and Akagi puffs her cheeks. "No promises," Akagi says. Kaga approaches with a small container and Akagi gently wakes Amagi. The little fox returns to her human form and lets Naruto feed her some onigiri. "So how is this sister of yours?" Kaga asks. Naruto wipes Amagi's mouth in thought. "She seems nice and humble. I'll need to get to know her more," he replies. "Maybe she won't be like those others. The Inuzuka would have ogled us in our human forms," Akagi says. "Inuzuka are more animal than human," Naruto says. "If he would have attempted anything on Ne-sama or Anko-sama, I would have taken what makes him a man," Kaga says, and Naruto get a dark look. "I would be inclined to agree," Naruto says. "What makes him a man?" Amagi asks, her voice soft and innocent. Kurama snorts as the 3 make a face. "Something you don't need to know for now," Kurama says, taking her from Naruto, and she makes a confused face. I should get back to Anko. See you later," Naruto says. Kurama gives a nod as Kaga and Akagi give him a hug. "Bye-bye Ni-chan," Amagi says, and Naruto waves, vanishing in a swirl of wind. Uzushiogakure no Sato. 1 month later. Fuyumi shrinks under the gaze of the Uzukage as she and her team were sent to Uzushio on a goodwill mission, but it was met by ice-cold looks. If one asked Fuyumi would she rather the looks of Uzushio's citizens or fighting nearly 30D rank hunters in Nami, well, she would take the latter. Hinata maintains a stoic face and Shino was unreadable, while her sensei stood protectively in front of them. "Thank you for accepting us, Uzukage-sama," Kurenai says, but Kushina says nothing. The redhead wanted nothing more than to cut down these 4, but one was her son's sister. "How does it feel?" Kushina asks, simply. Kurenai furrows her brow but gasps at the question. "Very cold, ma'am." "Similar how you were treated," she says. Kushina leans back in her chair with a lick of her lips and her draconic eyes on Kurenai's ruby orbs. "At least you're smart." "So what does the monkey want?" she asks. "Hokage-sama wishes to rekindle our alliance. He sent us to be of use to you in any way," Kurenai says. Kushina arches an eyebrow with a smirk and a seductive look on her face. "Anything," she says, but Kurenai blushes brightly, causing the redhead to laugh. "I'm not like my counterparts. If Sarutobi wishes to truly rekindle our alliance, he'll need to come here himself and his ward of a student as well. So Yuji-san, your trip is for naught," Kushina states. Kurenai frowns and turns to her team, but Kushina was standing behind her. "However, I wish to see something." "Fuyumi, come stand in front of me," Kushina says, and Fuyumi gasps. Kurenai was about to protest, but Fuyumi makes her way forward, before Kushina cups her face. She couldn't look away from Kushina's purple draconic eyes, but redhead pulls back as quickly as it happened. "Your team can stay. Be thankful of this girl. I'll have my Anbu escort you to a hotel," Kushina says, but the door bursts open and a young man rushes in. "Kushina-sama, we have an A-class gate in lower Shinkoku," he shouts, having messy brown hair and yellow eyes with a slim build under his black suit. "Falcon, who do we have?" Kushina says, and Falcon appears, kneeling on one knee. The Sannin are off island and the remaining Espada are spread through Uzu on clears. "It would take hours to reach Shinkoku with the other guilds," Falcon reports, and Kushina pinches her nose. "Where is Sochi?" Kushina asks, and Falcon freezes. "On his morning run. The last to disturb him couldn't eat for 4 months, Falcon says, and Team Kurenai gasp. "Go get him. Tell him I said to come," Kushina says, and Falcon vanishes, followed by the young man, but then the Summer Queen turns her gaze to Team Kurenai. "You 4 are going with him. If Konoha wants to prove themselves better than they were, help my son close this gate, Kushina says, leaving no room for refusal. A few minutes pass and suddenly the door slams open with Naruto stepping inside. Can I ask why Falcon came to see me on my run, he says. He wears a pair of brown cargo shorts with white running tights, high-top tennis shoes and a loose white beater over his sweaty form, giving all the women in the room a generous look at his body as he wipes his face. A-class gate in Shinkoku. Team Kurenai from Konoha will be your backup, Kushina explains. Naruto shifts his gaze to Kurenai and her team but more to Fuyumi. Fine. I'll need some gear, he says. Kushina holds up a black case with a smile. I keep some in case, she says, and Naruto shakes his head, taking the case and opening it to reveal numerous bracelets. Kurenai and her team gasp as Naruto outfits himself with a belt harness for Zetsue, a pair of trench knives and pulling said sword from a seal. It's Fuinjutsu. Those bracelets can be used to summon weapons to even animal summons. Sochi keeps copies of his gear. Do tell your cage what you see, Kushina says. What about that sword? He pulled it out of a seal on his arm, Fuyumi says, and Kushina smirks. You have an eye for weapons. Zetsue is a special sword. She's never too far from him, Kushina says. I'm ready, Naruto says, and Team Kurenai gawk. You're going dressed simply like that? Hinata questions. Naruto rolls his right shoulder with a smirk. Unlike you. I am always ready. Now we're heading to Shinkoku via a near instant movement. Now link hands and don't move or anything, he says. Team Kurenai link hands with Naruto holding hands with Kurenai and Fuyumi. How? Fuyumi starts but gasps, seeing her brother's eyes glow purple. Shadow exchange. Naruto utters and Team Kurenai gasp as they were on the streets of Shinkoku as people were being led away from the gate, with a confused man. And Naruto-sama, he says, and Naruto pats his back softly. We're here to help everyone. Now get to safety, Naruto says, and the man scurries off. Naruto makes his way towards the gate with his temporary team in tow. What was that? We appeared right behind that man. Do you know the Hiraishin? Kurenai asks, in quick succession. Naruto glances back with a smirk but shakes his head. It's my personal ability. Something I don't intend to tell outsiders. Now let's go clear this gate, he says, and the four follow him. Anbu and association personnel were already securing the scene as Naruto and company approach. Naruto-sama, area is secured, ready for insertion, Anbu codename Kuma says. Naruto pats Kuma on the shoulder. This is Team Kurenai from Konohagakure led by Kurenai Yuhi, he says. Kurenai Yuhi, B rank hunter, specialization caster, Kuma says. Her team consists of Shino Aburame, Hinata Hyuga and Fuyumi Namikaze, Naruto says, and Kuma takes note of each. Naruto slams his fist into his palm with a smirk. Time to work. Kuma, feel free to start the pot, he says, and Kuma bows. Hot? Fuyumi asks, and Kuma looks her way. A pot to see how long Naruto-sama takes to complete this gate, Kuma replies. You're cutting into my time. Let's go, Naruto shouts, as they step inside. The first thing that hits Team Kurenai were the chilling cold of snow and harsh wind. What is this? Fuyumi shouts but couldn't really be heard over the howling wind. Hinata activates her Byakugan as veins protrude on her face towards her eyes, but it was too late. Sensei. She pretends to shout. Kurenai was completely unaware of her student's actions or the death streaking towards her until something pokes her temple. Kurenai turns her gaze to see Naruto holding an arrow aimed for her head, causing her ruby eyes to widen. We need to move, Naruto says, unaffected by the cold. Kurenai, despite freezing, looks to her team and sees they were worse off than her. We can't. How are unaffected, she shouts. Naruto quickly weaves signs to Ram and slams his hands on the snow. Hyoten, ice igloo, he thought, creating said igloo. Kurenai and her team gasp at the structure, and the biting cold was gone, but they were still freezing, with Shino the worse off. You can use the Hyoten, Hinata hisses, zipping up her coat. I can mimic it with existing ice, Naruto says. He slips off 5 bracelets and summons Parkas for his ill-prepared team. Put these on, Naruto says, ripping off his shirt to start a fire with his coat. What happened? Fuyumi says. Naruto places his hand on the igloo to reinforce it as arrows start pelting the area. They took advantage of the whiteout. Your student was too late to save you. Luckily I was here, Naruto explains. What would have happened? Kurenai asks, missing Hinata's face. Naruto gives the Genjutsu mistress a look and points to the broken arrow. You would have been dead before your brain realized it, he says. Warm yourself and your students. I'll give you a rundown of the situation, Naruto says, and Kurenai mutters a thank you. How are you not cold? Fuyumi asks, warming her hands. Kurenai checks on Shino, and the cold hit her hard with a quarter of her hive dead. I would like to know that too. Unlike us, you are perfectly fine, Kurenai says. I'm used to these cold temperatures. I spent nearly a year in a near desolate frozen land on the 10th floor of the Heaven Tower, Naruto says, and they gasp. It's where I got these tattoos, Naruto adds, pointing to the runes. The 10th floor is land ruled by strength. The inhabitants of this floor are known as Vikings. A seafaring warrior people that can do the most unspeakable things known to man, Naruto explains, and Kurenai gasps in horror. I was 12 at time and mother to further toughen me up sent me to them. So I joined the Jomsvikings and survived. However, we can talk about that later. We need to focus on our enemies. Kurenai, can you make an illusion of us dead? I'll make another igloo for you four, Naruto says. What will you do? Fuyumi says and Naruto smirks. Music. Kill them all. Paul. D beats loop. Naruto lays flat near their former site as Kurenai starts to create the illusion of them all dead. Kurenai with an arrow through her temple with Fuyumi having a similar death as she went to help her guardian. Hinata took one through the throat and choked to death, while Shino took several. Naruto was of a similar state to Shino as arrows riddled in his body. The real Naruto was under a sheet of snow as heavy footfalls approach and he sees several men of various sizes, even some double his size. All of them were wearing bear skins and other fur-like clothes. Several archers appear in the trees, dressed without the bear skin and are female with fur dresses. Louder footfalls start to make themselves known. There you are, Naruto thought. Several trees break as a massive short-nosed bear appears, easily 25 to 30 feet if it stood. On its back is a muscular man with various furs and bear head dress with two long elk horns on it. In his hand was an axe but a Viking-inspired two-handed axe with a large blade, including several runes going down the handle. A hunter must had it and you claimed it as spoils, huh big boy. Well, don't fault me for doing the same, Naruto thought. Ironside, let loose the wolves of war, Naruto thought. The leader grunts in their language to check the bodies and one does, but all he finds is an arrow to the forehead. Several howls get their attention as the bear roars in response. From the trees more arrows fly as the hunters respond. Ironside bum rushes through the trees and swings his axe into one of the larger hunters, spewing black blood on the snow. Wolves follow Ironside and attack, going for throats as the hunters counterattack, but when a wolf dies another rises. The archers try to pinpoint their quarry but their quarry make no sounds. One hisses in anger but grunts as she's bound to a tree by thorns, allowing Kurenai to emerge and slit her throat. The Genjutsu mistress continues this process as Fuyumi and Hinata begin their ground assault. Hinata hated this mission but she also hated Kurenai and Fuyumi, the latter more so as she is the useless daughter of their Yondaime. She, like many in village, felt Fuyumi should be leading them into the future but instead wallows mediocrity. She learned from her father that Konoha intended to announce Fuyumi's heritage to garner clients and trainers. However, Uzushio did it first and with a male heir, but Uzumaki genetics were nigh superior, hiding all traces of the Yondaime. Hinata slams her palm in a hunter and explodes his heart with her Juken, thanks to her gauntlets which increase her strength. She had hoped to seduce Naruto but he saw her attempt to kill Kurenai. Curse the gods for my failure, Hinata thought. At the same time Fuyumi was fighting to the best of her abilities. Her new sword which she needed to give a name to was like an extension of herself. Brother seems to fight like an assassin with those daggers, Fuyumi thought, seeing glimpses of Naruto. A large hunter swings a large club but Fuyumi blocks, causing her to skid in the snow as she catches her breath. We need to kill the boss. I can feel my limbs going numb, Fuyumi thought. The club hunter roars almost akin human and bear but Fuyumi screams right back. She shoots forward as her whole body glows yellow as do her eyes. Futon Kenjutsu, severing wave, Fuyumi thought, slashing the hunter in several spots. He gives one last roar and collapses with a thud as Fuyumi staggers but falls into something hard. The something being Ironside, causing to move quickly but the brute gives her a thumbs up. Fuyumi does the same and Ironside smirks, before joining his master. Naruto stares the leader down as Ironside joins him. Bear is all yours. Leader is mine, he says, sheathing his knives and slowly drawing Zetsue. The leader seems to sense the challenge and leaps from the bear with a thud. The tension seems to double as both sides stare each other down. Tidtil Keirig, Naruto roars and Ironside roars as well. The leader and war bear do the same as both sides rush into battle. Fuyumi joins Kurenai in the trees. What did Naruto yell? Fuyumi says. I don't know. We should check on Shino, Kurenai says and both vanish, as Hinata soon follows them. Naruto slams into the leader with a shoulder block, staggering him and allowing the Monarch to slash open his chest. The leader swings his axe but Naruto dodges with a sidestep and uses Shukuchi to get behind the leader into a Gatatsu strike from behind. Blood spews from the wound on both ends as the leader roars and swings his axe. Naruto blocks with his forearm, hitting the leader's arm and knocking the axe free. The leader roars and attempts a right cross but Naruto blocks it, into a headbutt and staggering the leader. A loud snap echoes and the cause was Ironside breaking the bear's neck. This halts the leader and Naruto makes him pay by cleaving off his head with the axe. Naruto then raises the axe with a mighty roar and Ironside follows suit as the snow stops. I'll put you to good use. In honor of your fallen master, Naruto muses. Music ends. Naruto stares at the corpses of the leader and bear, while Ironside stood near him with his clones scouring the area. Naruto, the gate is open. Your clone took Shino through with the others, Fuyumi says, walking up. You should go too. Those need to be treated, Naruto says. Fuyumi looks down at her feet and they were showing early signs of hypothermia. I can take it. I. She says. Naruto squats down to touch the leader. I suspect the Hokage wants you to get to know me better, he said, and Fuyumi's breath hitches. If we are to establish trust with one another, I wish to know some things. Tell me, are you treated well, and be honest, Naruto says. Well, I don't think I am. Some people, even Gigi, compare me to our dad. Teachers at the academy brought up how dad did it this way or that way. I'm actually glad I got Kurenai-sensei as my sensei. Otherwise it would be maddening, Fuyumi says, but feels a hand on her shoulder courtesy of Ironside. Unbeknownst to Fuyumi, Naruto was using his Sharingan to get her to talk. I see. I have an inkling of that feeling. My mother is revered by many, and those are big shoes to fill. Anyway, since you've given a little, I'll show you something, but this must stay between us. This is my trust in you, my little sister, he says, and turns to her, pocketing his hands. Fuyumi's blue eyes widen as Naruto's eyes turn a haunting purple. Arise. He utters. Fuyumi gasps sharply as the corpses twitch and shadow versions of them appear, even the leader and bear. My power is necromancy. I can bring someone back if I wish as a shadow soldier. I can even attach that shadow to a person and travel. It's how we got to Shinkoku, Naruto explains and points to Ironside. He was one of my first. His name was Bjorn Ironside. A man who, despite being on his deathbed, got out of that bed, donned his armor and led his army into battle before passing, Naruto says, and looks down at her. This is my trust in you, sister, he says. I won't break it, Fuyumi says. Naruto softly smiles and Ironside lifts her off the ground. He'll take you to the healers, he says, and she slowly nods, letting Ironside take her to the exit. She's an innocent child in this, Zetsue comments, and Naruto grunts, turning his attention to the bear and leader. You two need names, Naruto says, cupping his chin in thought but snaps his fingers. I'll call you Hattie, named for one of the wolves who devoured the moon, Naruto explains, and Hattie blows steam from its nose as if it likes the name. You'll be called Bone, Naruto says, with no fanfare, and Hattie seems to snort at Bone. Naruto dispels his new soldiers and makes his way to gate exit, stepping out to Puma. All of them have been taken to the healers. Anything of value, Puma said. Weapons and old valuables. Send in 5 teams. My clones are waiting, Naruto replies and goes for a shower. An hour later, Naruto was sitting in a penthouse of a hotel with a glass of whiskey. You know, Fuyumi reminds me of Aina, Zetsue comments, and Naruto snorts, remembering the timid demon. Flashback. Demon Tower. Naruto follows behind Aina into her father's castle to receive the pass to move on to next level of the tower. Aina's father sits on his throne, but the man has a look of complete fear on his face. Aina. Who have brought, he says. What do mean, father? This is Sir Naruto. Oh, he is the Shadow Monarch, Aina says. I see. I am Ms. So what do you want of me? Aina's father says. Passage to next level, and in exchange I will seat you as rulers of this tower, Naruto says. I've heard another who made such a boast and failed, Ms. says. Naruto flexes his power and brings out some of his army, unlike that man. I intend to do it, he says, and Ms. weakly nods, handing over the key to the next level. Aina continues to follow Naruto as his witness to his greatness, whether through crushing the ruler the level or through negotiations as each level fell to the new Shadow Monarch. They soon reach the entrance to the final level of the tower. I can go no further, Sir Naruto. I wish you luck and thank you, Aina says, before kissing Naruto on the cheek. Music. The Betrayer, Doom Eternal. Naruto chuckles and steps through the gate into the peak of the tower, resembling an destroyed city like many of the others before them. However, the air was different here as it was heavy and old but also charred. Naruto uses Shunpo to search out life but finds nothing but decay. No one has made it this far, it seems, he thought, but hears a roar. Naruto skids to a halt and lands on a building as in the distance was Wyvern, and upon it sits a hulking figure. They were a huge, muscular demon with gray skin, glowing white eyes, glowing flame-like white hair, a long tail, and 4 horns on their head, 2 of which were very long and curved. They also wear an elaborate gray helmet and pale yellow armor on their shoulders and over the groin area. Monarch of Shadow, you have come to your death, I see, they boom out, across the desolate area. Naruto moves closer and halts in the air near the supposed ruler of the tower, far from it. I've come to give you death, he says. The figure laughs loudly and pulls the reins on their wyvern. Death it is. I, Monarch of Demons Baron, shall give it to you, they roar. The wyvern roars and takes flight as Naruto draws Zetsue, flaring his captain class Ryutsu, and this gives Baron pause. Bankai, Kaozu Heiki Zetsue, Naruto shouts. Zetsue glows brightly and shifts into a halberd-like weapon having a large double-edged sword shape and its pommel having a large, crescent moon-like design. Dragon Thunder Clap, Naruto shouts, swinging the massive blade and shooting red lightning. Baron dodges and their wyvern fires its own white flames as Baron draws a massive blade. Naruto launches forward with a burst of wind and swings Zetsue as Baron swings their blade, colliding in a shockwave that blows both back. You seem to have some skill. However, it will not save you, human monarch, Baron sneers. Naruto ignores Baron's boasts and shoots forward to knock them from their wyvern, but it fires another stream of flames, allowing Baron to regain their wyvern. Naruto dodges and fires another dragon thunder clap, but Baron dodges, firing lightning from their own blade. Explosions rock the hellscape as Naruto and Baron trade attacks with neither gaining an inch. Baron swings the massive blade with another shockwave, but Naruto pushes on the blade. How can this human monarch keep up with me, a full monarch? Unless, Baron thought. Both break once again as the buildings under them shudder and break apart, but Naruto tosses Zetsuade towards Baron, which they send careening into the rubble. Have you finally take leave of your senses? Baron boasts, but their blank and white eyes widen. Naruto was clutching his left hand and charges a dark purple Sero Buster cannon. He roars, firing the wide area Sero. Baron channels power to their blade and swings into the Sero with a thunderous explosion, but it is enough to unseat Baron from their wyvern. It crashes into a building unmoving as Baron remains hovering with part of their armor broken away. You will pay 1,000-fold for this affront, Baron roars, but Naruto appears from the smoke in the sky with a wild grin. Naruto brings Zetsuade down and she crashes into Baron, sending them through several buildings. Naruto rests Zetsuade on his shoulder but shifts his gaze to the fallen wyvern. Arise. He utters, bringing it back. Baron explodes with power but gasps as they see Naruto standing on their fallen mount. Impossible. That wyvern was powerful. How could you bring it back? Unless you are not a human monarch but a full monarch. Baron roars. Naruto grins with malicious intent and spins Zetsuade over his head with one hand. You realized it too late, he says and vanishes, appearing above Baron. Dragon's Maelstrom. Naruto shouts and destroying Baron, solidifying him superior to his father. Music end. End flashback. Naruto opens his eyes to sound of knocking and he closes his robe, making his way to open it to find Fuyumi standing at the door. She was wearing casual clothes of shorts and a blouse with bandages up to her forearms and knees with some slippers. Should you be up and about? Naruto says, inviting her in. It wasn't so bad. Kurenai-sensei sent me to say thank you, Fuyumi says. Naruto closes his robe more. You don't have to. Gates are tricky. You don't know what you're walking into. So always be aware. Drink, he says. I don't drink, Fuyumi says but sees the soda bottle in his hand and she takes it. Naruto goes change into some jeans and a tea as Fuyumi opens her bottle. So how long have you been a necromancer? She asks. I awakened at 6. Reawakened at 13. Naruto replies and Fuyumi's eyes widen. You reawakened, Fuyumi says and Naruto nods. It's a rarity. Hunters can go up a level in power. My case, I became unranked. My power surpasses the normal scale. Add to the fact I am a monarch, Naruto explains. What's a monarch? Fuyumi asks. Naruto takes a seat with a new glass of whiskey. This falls under trust but I can say it is something you pray you don't fight. They surpass even SS class. They are S-class bosses times 10, Naruto explains and Fuyumi's were wide the entire time. 3 intended to kill me but failed but others are lurking about. Hoping for a chance to fail in killing me, Naruto adds. Confident in yourself, Fuyumi says. Gotta be, otherwise I'll be killed. So what it is your ability, Naruto says. It's called Sword Dancer. I can wield any sword and enhance my moves, Fuyumi explains and Naruto looks impressed. If she awakened the Sharingan, her ability would only grow, Naruto thought. He was about to compliment her but his eyes narrow. Seems we have a guest, Naruto says, getting to his feet and Fuyumi looks confused. Naruto opens the door to Tsunade with her arms folded under her 106 centimeters. How did you get here so fast? He asks. Querasha, Tsunade says, walking in and seeing Fuyumi. Meet Fuyumi Namikaze, my sister and Fuyumi. Meet Tsunade Senju, Naruto says and they exchange greetings. Senju, Fuyumi asks. Tsunade takes a seat with a nod as Naruto makes her a drink, unlike the Senju in Konoha. Who picked over my great-grandfather's remains and forced my great-granduncle to flee? We still follow his teachings, she says. Naruto hands Tsunade her drink. It's a sensitive subject, he says. It probably would be. I've heard stories about the legendary healer, Fuyumi says. That she drinks like a fish. Gambles like a fiend, Naruto says and Tsunade shoots him a look but he leans down to kiss her forehead. That she never gives up on those in her care. That is she is most loving woman to many of the orphans in Uzushio, Naruto adds. HMPH. Praise me more Naru-kun, Tsunade said but shifts her focus to Fuyumi and her bandages. How bad was the gate? Tsunade asks, rising to her feet and approaching her fellow blonde. A snowstorm. If Naruto wasn't there, we would be dead, Fuyumi replies and gasps as Tsunade's hands glow a light green. They took advantage of the whiteout. She and team did well. Considering mom threw them in with me, Naruto says. She has a tendency to do that, Tsunade muses. Fuyumi rises from her seat with a stretch. Thank you but I should get back to my team. It was nice meeting you, she says and excuses herself, as Tsunade returns to her seat. She seems like a good person, Tsunade said, as Naruto crosses his legs. She is. Her Hyuga teammate on the other hand, Naruto says and Tsunade arches an eyebrow. She attempted to use the whiteout to kill her sensei. Deaths do happen within gates but Konoha could whine about her dying on my watch, he adds. Maybe that was the plan, Tsunade says and Naruto nods, sipping his drink. Konohagakure no Sato. Hiruzen look over his village after reviewing Kurenai's report from Uzushio. He cursed the witch Kushina for sending one of his genin teams into an A- ranked gate. However, it managed to bring more of Naruto's abilities to the surface, a technique on par with the Hiraishin, Hiruzen thought. Neko. Hiruzen says and the operative appears. Unlike the previous world, Yugao Azuki is male with a skinny build and messy purple hair. I want your team to head to Nami and escort Team Kurenai back to the village, Hiruzen orders and Neko vanishes. 10 days later the team in question were standing in front of their cage and giving their report. You're dismissed, Hiruzen says but stops Fuyumi. So? Hiruzen asks. Fuyumi shifts from one foot to another. We talked. Naruto is super nice. He even showed me some new sword techniques. I even got to meet Tsunade Senju and her cousin Yahiko, she says and Hiruzen gives her a grandfatherly smile. What are the young Senju like? Comparable to our Senju, Hiruzen asks. Tsunade's really strong. She destroyed a huge boulder with one punch and showed Kurenai-sensei some healing techniques. Shino even found some insects thanks to her. Yahiko is strong too but with Suiden jutsu, Fuyumi explains. So the Senju can enhance her strength like Sensei could and he is like Tobirama, Hiruzen thought. Did you go into any other gates? Hiruzen asks but Fuyumi shakes her head, before he dismisses her. Neko appears in a kneeling motion, he personally escorted them. Even toward the bridge, he betrayed nothing, he reports. I see. Fuyumi speaks well of him and the Senju. She must be his mistress, Hiruzen says. 2 others as well were seen close to him. A Konan Shirayuki and Kaguya Aliyah, Neko says and Hiruzen's eyes widen but says nothing, before dismissing Neko. One of the Densetsu no Sanin. A name my students perhaps could have earned in their battle with Hanzo but 3 whelps did by simply standing up to him, Hiruzen thought. His door opens and Danzo enters with a clack of his cane. What have you learned? Hiruzen asks. Suna has aligned with itself with Uzu and aim. Danzo starts and this gives Hiruzen pause. Hanzo would align with Uzushio. Hiruzen says but clears his throat. Uzushio's offer must have been overwhelming to convince Hanzo but worse is Suna. The Wind Lord has been most generous to our nation as of late, Hiruzen adds. Too much if his ninja village aligned itself with Uzushio. Perhaps it's time Rasa be removed, Danzo said. Orochimaru can send his Sound 5 lead by his Kaguya charge. It can be done during the Chunin exams, Hiruzen says. It can't be tied us. Dressing them as Uzu ninja would be in less as well. Perhaps inciting them against Iwa or Kumo, Danzo said and Hiruzen nods. What about our Jinchuriki problem? Hiruzen asks. We can get out hands on the Nanabi container. She lives in the outlines of the village and the leader Suian is willing to look the other way for a price, Danzo says and Hiruzen nods again. Retrieve her immediately. We need to be prepared, Hiruzen says. Uzushiogakure no Sato. So you're dodging work, a voice says, with an adjust of her red frame glasses. Naruto was currently sitting in the office of Karen Uzumaki, head of R&D for his guild. Not so much dodging. My clones handle my day to day, Naruto says. Karen gives him a look and he takes his feet off her desk. So. What do you want? Oh, your new axe, she says. She wears a purple button-up blouse, a black tie, black jean shorts with purple stockings and a white lab coat. Naruto follows his fellow Uzumaki to one of the many research rooms in his guild building. I outfitted it with the seals you requested. Even the storage seal to take in energy to be discharged, she explains. It looked high quality. The original owner used premium materials, Naruto says. The axe sits on a table as Karen goes around. I would agree. The wood is from Wood's country and the metal is high-grade chakra metal from iron. The wood itself is at least a century old, she explains and Naruto whistles, picking up his new axe. Your name will be Stormbreaker, Naruto says and Karen makes a face. You and the naming. Oh, I also have Kaguya's bow and Tsunade's gauntlets, Karen says. Naruto seals his axe in a seal on one of his tats as she leads him to another room where several researchers were putting the finishing touches on his lover's weapons, since Kaguya can use her bones as arrows or create them with natural energy. I focused on reflex and maneuverability, Karen explains. The bow has the style of compound bow, string made from that spider nest in the north, Naruto says and Karen nods. The bow itself is made of lightweight and durable material with seals to her specifications. Same with Tsunade's gauntlets, Karen explains, showing him the gauntlets. They are arm-length in a metallic silver design with intricate designs of varying colors with claw-like fingers and detachable saws on the top of the hands. Thanks, Karen. These will come in handy in the tower, Naruto says. Until you enter we can make adjustments, Karen says and Naruto nods, sealing both into bracelets. You know, I've heard rumors that a cage summit may be called to discuss a possible 4th expedition to Glacier Island, Karen says and Naruto furrows his brow. Where'd you hear something like that? Especially when my mother hasn't mentioned it, Naruto says. Reddit. Karen replies and Naruto makes a face but sighs, as they enter her office. I see. No one's been there since the end of the Second War. Even Yuki stays away from there with a constant naval presence. Hell, Konoha pulled out of the last raid. Blaming the death of the Nadaime Hokage Kagami Uchiha, Naruto explains. Even so, that's the rumor on the web. You and the Espada could clear it even if it is an S-class break, Karen says. True, but mother will only allow it for the right price, Naruto says. Karen's office door opens and a researcher pokes his head in. Guild Master. 3 young genin are looking for you. They were sent by Kushina-sama, he says in Naruto TSKS. So you are ducking work, Karen says. Mother wants me to train some genin for the exams, Naruto says. Who better than you? They'll be ready and get experience, Karen notes, and Naruto slowly nods, bidding Karen bye. Wasabi Izuno was giddy as she's meeting the lover of her idol and leader of one of the most powerful guilds around. Her teammate Iwabi Ueno was just as giddy as he was huge fan of their new sensei. Their third teammate Kaguya Uzumaki was actually related to him as his second cousin. Is he like the rumors? Iwabi asks. He is young man with a tan complexion, lean build, dark brown eyes, and straight, dark brown hair. His outfits consists of a red cap covering his ears and secured by a blue string that holds up all his hair excluding a single bang that hangs between his eyes. A dull red shirt, a black jacket and trousers with steel toe boots. That he is lazy bastard then. Yeah, Kaguya says, and is very much like her previous world's counterpart. Her outfit consists of black shirt with the Uzumaki swirl in purple on the back, black cargo shorts that cinch below the knee with reinforced sneakers the same color as her clothes. Lastly, a dark purple hoodie with black trim and gloves, completing her attire with a pair of wireless headphones around her neck. You don't mean that, Wasabi says, her cat ears flopping down. She is a demihuman from the tower as her mother settled in Uzushiogakure. She has short, spiky brown hair and green, cat-like eyes with 2 cat tails moving around. Her outfit consists of a light green, sleeveless hoodie shirt, that is cropped with a mesh attire underneath, and puffy green shorts with brown sandals. Of course she doesn't. She loves her cousin, Naruto says, walking up. Kaguya sighs as her teammates geek out. No I don't, she says but hugs Naruto. Alright, follow me and we'll get introduced to one another, Naruto says and beckons for them to follow. The 4 ride the elevator to Naruto's office with the 3 taking in everything. Are the other Espada here? Wasabi asks. Naruto opens his door and ushers the 3 in and beckons for them to sit on one of the couches. Primera isn't here. The Sannin are in AIM prepping to help start a guild there. Thorkel, you 3 aren't ready for. Anko and Kaguya are in the mess with Tsunade at the medical center, Naruto explains. What about Shinki? Kaguya asks. Naruto gives his cousin a sly look. Your boyfriend is off island in Suna, he says, and Kaguya was about to curse him out but stops. Anyway, let's introduce ourselves. You know me by reputation. So introduce yourselves, Naruto says. Iwabi quickly snapped to attention despite sitting. Iwabi Ueno, and it is an honor to meet you, Naruto-sama, he shouts. Easy man. Naruto is just fine, Naruto says. Wasabi Izuno, and it's an honor to learn from you and Tsunade-sama, Wasabi says, and Naruto smiles. Kaguya Uzumaki, and I see you enough to know Oni-sama made you teach us, Kaguya says. Naruto snorts at his mother's pet name. Yes she did, but that doesn't mean I'll slack off. When I'm done with you, other genin will cry in terror, he says. Naru-kun. Anko crows, pushing open his door with Kaguya in the tow. The former Otsutsuki has a bowl of ice cream in her hands. Naru-kun, she says, but the pair see the 3. Who are they? Oh hey Yuya-chan, Anko says. Iwabi Ueno and Wasabi Izuno. I'm their jonin lead for now, Naruto explains as both greet Anko and Kaguya. This has mama written all over this, Anko says, plopping on the other couch and crossing her legs. Kaguya goes bold and sits in Naruto's lap. It's strawberry, she says, holding a spoonful to his mouth. Naruto takes the spoon with a soft coo and Kaguya licks some stray cream from his mouth. KHM. Want them to leave, Anko says, but Naruto shakes his head, as Kaguya joins her on the sofa. Anyway, as I was saying, I'll be training you. We'll also be clearing gates. So be prepared, Naruto says, and 3 nod. So what are skill sets? Anko asks. I specialize in taijutsu and Neko ninjutsu. I'm similar to the Inuzuka of Konoha but don't use a nin-ken partner, Wasabi explains. I really don't have a specialization but I'm good with my pipe and dodenjutsu, Iwabi says. Naruto cups his chin thought and his lovers could see the wheels turning in his head. I can work with this. Kaguya specializes in musical genjutsu and long-range attacks, he says. Alright, meet me here in the lobby at 8 AM, Naruto adds and dismisses the 3. Those poor genin, Kaguya says, finishing her ice cream, and Anko giggles. I won't hurt them too bad, Naruto says and breaks out Kaguya's new bow. Kaguya approaches the desk and picks up the bow. It looks to be in good shape, she says. Karen always does good work, Naruto says, and he sees Anko pouting. Don't be jealous, he says. I'm not. I have whis, Anko says and recrosses her legs. So you're gonna train genin, she adds. Naruto leans back in his chair. I don't mind. I'll take them into some lower level gates. I can already decide on a weapon for Iwabi, he says. I'll help if I can. That wasabi girl could maybe learn the hubby's style, Anko says. I can help too. Chiyuya fights from long range. Perhaps a bow is in her future, Kaguya comments and both softly laugh.